as aspects that undermine journalists' safety. The statements come on the back of cases of brute force directed at the media by the police during Gen Z demonstrations. And there is a need for the protests that are going on in the country to be stopped in order to reduce the losses that are caused by them. According to Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, he says this is because the crime resulting from the protest is also crippling the economic growth.
How would you sleep if you know you have destroyed somebody's life savings, another young person's life savings? How do you sleep? Does it feel good? I don't know. But I think I would have nightmares if I know I have been destroying my sister's or my brother's business enterprise in Chavakali, or in Kakamega, or in Nyeri, or in Lunga Lunga, or in Isbania. So let's take a moment as a country and reflect on some of these issues.
Mudavadi has also said that the protests carried out by Gen Z may contribute to violence in the country, causing clashes in neighboring countries.
Let us take corrective measures, but let us not undermine the peace and stability. The countries that have suffered have taken up to 40 years to start showing signs of recovery. Somalia went into chaos. It is now they're beginning to show a little bit of recovery. 40 years. So if you're a young person today and your country does not recover in 40 years, if you're 18 or if you're 20 and your country is thrown into turmoil for the next 40 years, tell me where you will be.
At the same time, Mudavadi admitted that the complaints raised by the youth cannot be implemented in one day, saying that they should be patient when the government sets strategies to strengthen the economic situation and address other issues that are affecting the country.
We are here today. We shall make our mistakes, all of us. But the country must not go down with our mistakes, because there will be another generation to come and take over. And I can tell you, resuscitating an economy is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not instant coffee. It takes time. And sometimes it can take a very, very long time.
And medical services are set to improve across government hospitals after striking medical interns finally got to an agreement with the government that will see them report to their working stations from the 1st of August. KMPDU Secretary General Davji Atela says the government has kept the end of their bargain as they've already started receiving their posting letters.
But I must say that for the last 3 days, this matter has been handled with a different approach, in the sense that some of the things that we had asked them to do earlier, even during strike, that were not done, we've come to agree upon. And this particularly regards a temporary relief that will see all the intern doctors report to their duties by tomorrow, from 1st of August. All of them, 1,210, and then that will report on 1st of August.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives the real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. You know, people hiding here and there, you know, but after 2, 3 months, 5 months, now you realize, so that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. Cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person, or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then, taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to the end of the week. What's happening here on the streets this morning? We're looking at a little bit of traffic starting to build just at that junction at Allsops, but it's free and clear all the way through. Even at the Pangani underpass, we're not seeing anything popping just yet. Coming off Mombasa Road, you're fine going through past Capital Centre, out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and then into the city via Uhuru Highway. Gong Road, nothing is coming off there. And Langata Road looks good as well. Where are you this morning? Getting into the weekend. Let's keep an eye on how things are going to progress. We'll talk through it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yo, 12 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's Friday, the 19th of July. I'm getting all my numbers correctly. How are you this morning? Getting into it. Yet another chilly Friday registered in the city, and a frog has gotten into my throat. But you know what? We shall do like that as we're getting into it this morning. Siti Muga, good morning.
Ndu Okoh, good morning.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
Where? Siti, I've swallowed a frog.
You have, huh?
Yeah, man.
Well,
now Siti has gone under the table.
Shortly. If you decide to swallow a frog, I hope you chose a nice big one.
Yeah, man. It's just lodged in my throat, but we're doing the thing. But hey, we will be here no matter what. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic.
You'll be here come what may.
Come what may, no matter what, they will not believe.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says they like your hats, CT.
Thank you very much.
And then the next thing you do is you tell them where you got them from.
They've asked.
Yeah.
This particular, the hats you see me wearing, there are exceptions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Mao cap that I like wearing.
Mao.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it Mao. Mm-hmm. If you look at the Mao Zedong's early pictures, he had a cap similar to the one that I wear sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But these ones come from Papua New Guinea.
There you go.
I have relatives there.
Mm-hmm.
Not Guinea-Bissau, okay?
Not Guinea, Kisumu.
No.
Guinea.
Not Guinea. Not Guinea. This is it's Papua Guinea. New Guinea. That's it's a country that
in the South Pacific.
You've got it. That's exactly where it is. It's near Australia. It's near Indonesia. Yes, and so forth and so forth.
And so forth and so forth. That's where the hats come from. So those of you who are thinking CT can hook you up, you might want to travel in order to have that happen.
Yes.
But it's good to see you this morning all the same.
Thank you.
So, Eric is still doing a thing. But don't worry, we'll allow him the weekend.
Let him rest.
Let him rest, Kidogo, and then we'll see each other again on Monday. And the show continues. Either way, guys, I can see you trickling in already. Welcome to Friday, where still many conversations continue this morning around many things that are happening in the country and indeed around the world. Let me give you a quick look into what some of those conversations will be. Okay, so at 7. Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Start again. Rewind.
Okay.
Boom, boom.
Suleiman Shaba will be with us here. He's an MP in the East African Legislative Assembly, and that is Yala. We'll be looking at Kenya's political options after mass protests, and let's hear what it is that he has to say as a regional MP and one who's been very active in Kenya's politics over the years. Let's see where that conversation will take us in terms of options that are available after what we have seen recently. All right. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll be having a discussion about how you can earn through money market funds. What are money market funds? How can you earn through them? And the CEO of British Asset Managers, Barack Obatsa, will be here with us at 8. Finally, Grand Mullah. His name is Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi. He is a lawyer, you know him. And we'll be looking at the formation of cabinet from a legal point of view. Which way forward? Jam-packed conversations this morning. We can see that you're going to be here. And it will be quite an interesting day as we get into some of these conversations, noting what is happening here and there. All right. Like I said, I can see all of you guys trickling in this morning. We'll say hello to you in just a minute. And just tell us where you are. Always great to have you in the room. Let's take a look at the weather first and then get to it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
12 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 21 and highs of 22 in a mostly cloudy Nakuru, going to lows of 14. A 19 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 15, and it's 14 and cloudy in Eldoret with highs of 22. Mombasa is cloudy at 22 with highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 25. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu with highs of 27. While in Kakamega at 18, we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 17. Kampala at 19, cloudy this morning with highs of 27, and at 23, it's clear in Dar es Salaam with highs of 30 and lows of 22. 12 degrees and clear in Johannesburg with highs of 22, and we'll see highs of 29 in what will be a mostly cloudy Mogadishu this morning at 25. It's 13 and sunny in Addis Ababa with highs of 21. We'll see lows of 13. Lagos is cloudy at 25 with highs of 28, and at 20 it's clear in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 30. We're looking into a sunny Beijing Friday afternoon at 33, going to highs of 37, and into Paris this morning it is cloudy at 18 with highs of 32. London into the summer proper, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 17. It's clear Thursday night at 24 in New York. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 19.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, guys, good morning. We can see you in the room. Peter Kiaria says, good morning, team. Your character is who you are when nobody is watching. Truer things have not been spoken. This is true, Peter. Good morning to you. Idris Bakari says, good morning, tuned in, fellow Kenyans. Good morning from Nyeri, says Ian Jomo. Michael Olanda is tuned in this morning. Hope you had a good night. Yes, Abi. Yeah, I had a good night. Titi, did you not?
I myself personally.
You yourself personally.
I most certainly did.
Yeah. So Michael's hopes have not been dashed against the
really.
rocks. So George Gashoriri is also tuned in this morning. Jimmy Wekesa says good morning. Jimmy Mureithi says good morning, Spice. President Ruto should not recycle previous CSs. Well, I don't think the law allows him to do that, especially after the gazettement that we saw a couple of days ago. And according to the law, and we'll get some more insight about that this morning, but he can't actually put in any of the names that he gazetted as having been vacated office. Yes, if I'm not wrong. Okay. Don Sabwa, good morning to you. It's been a while. You're telling Eric that you're still in Kinama, still resting. Okay, we'll pass that message on to him.
Kinama or Kimana?
I think it should be Kimana, but I think maybe you spelled it wrong, Dom. But yeah, Kimana. Okay, also we're seeing you, Jaber. Good morning, up and early from Roiro at at negative 9 degrees. If it was negative 9 degrees, I can be sure, Jaber, you would be freezing.
Yeah. Even 5 degrees, my friend, is cold to the point of madness. The moment at negative,
it's like, in negative degree weather, negative 0.
You can't even think.
It's like glass cutting your skin. It's ridiculously cold.
Yes.
This is not anywhere near that.
No,
trust me.
There's no minus here.
No, not yet. Okay, so Tibbs Muge, good morning. Good to have you in the room always. And Chris Adede is also tuned in. Sam Korea says, good morning, Lady Ndu, Prophet CT, Reverend Eric and Ednah. Greetings from Muga. If we remove one gu, it becomes Muga. But okay, that's for later. Hello, Princess Leo. You got it. It took a minute, but yeah, I can see that you're here with me.
Right.
Okay. Okay, there's so many of you online this morning. I need to get into it, right? Cyprian says good morning. Leo's here, we've seen. Chariton says good morning. Good morning, Eric, CT, and my girl Ndu watching this evening from Washington. Hit me with that situation room. Bah! You've been hit. We are here. Felix says good morning. David Danson is also tuned in. Linus Rainman says good morning. And I'm glad to see that you're locked in. Jeffrey Nanyuki says good morning. You need to tell me how to say your name properly so that I do not butcher it. Nyanyuki, isn't it? George Okoh says good morning. Watching this morning from Miami, Florida. Muruwa Nyakuru, Nyahururu, Nyakairo says good morning. Peter Kericho is also tuned in. And Karanjan Jehia says good morning to everybody. Haya, Ndu is Nigerian. Imagine. Just imagine that she actually is. I'm telling you, it's not a lie. I tell you many things, but I'll never tell you a lie. Nelson Munga is also tuned in this morning. Bernardo Kello says good morning. Dr. Venvik is here. Andrew Mark is tuned in from Kisumu and is looking for the daily bread in peace. You will find it, my brother. Many people online this morning. Miss Kitonga, we see you. DK says good morning. Rashid Sharif is here. Gash, we also see you. The transitioning is also here. Grace Njenga, good morning to you. And Wilson Akech, it just goes on and on and on. Happy fingers, rainbows and stars. Everybody, thank you for being here in the room this morning. Of course, we see you. Even if we don't mention you, we try to get through as many as we can. All right. Our proverbs this week were from Cabo Verde. It's the last day in the island.
It is most certainly the last day of proverbs from Cabo Verde. Last what?
Day.
Yes, not the last proverb. Cabo Verde still has very many proverbs. Now, which one do I choose? So many proverbs. In new surroundings, the hen will walk on one leg.
It is very true. There's a proverb like that in my language.
And it says what exactly?
In fact, the chicken that enters into a new yard will stand on one leg for a few days before putting it down.
And what meaneth that?
Well, when you get into a new place or new surroundings, you need to check it out first before you get comfortable and start walking about like you own the place.
Yeah, you walk gingerly, carefully, cautiously.
Yes. See what's going on. See who rules the roost, literally. See how things operate here and there before you start shouting.
Right, right. Excellent.
Very true. Okay, so the headlines have all manner of things today. Let's get into it. On the front page of the Standard, the Gen Z effect and scramble for cabinet. So it makes things sound as though Gen Z are scrambling for cabinet. I don't know that that is necessarily the truth. Even as the president retreats to consider his new cabinet secretary nominees, Kenyans have joined Gen Z protesters to demand a squeaky clean and meritorious top government organ. But in the case of all habits die hard, the political class is already rooting for partisan interests. Which way, Ruto, is the question. Chief fights it out with man over paternity rights. There's a thing called a paternity test. You can just check. It's almost foolproof and you'll be sure who the father is. But we'll look into the story. Budget cuts, State House and the DP hard hits. Vilenafa. Regional investment double. We'll look into that and see what that's all about. Court suspends police ban on protests in the CBD. We had seen previously that the police had said protests in the center of the town, CBD. No. Well, somebody took it to court.
And the court said?
Forget about it.
Okay.
For now. Judge says Kenyans have the right to picket and police should not stop anyone from demonstrating in Nairobi Central Business District.
Okay.
So, yeah, nice try, but no. Let's look at the front page of The Nation. Raila's shadow in Ruto State House. Alar. The ODM chief Raila Odinga has emerged as one of President Ruto's closest confidants in the wake of the ongoing anti-government protests. And that's not in doubt. The two are said to be meeting regularly, with their discussions centered on pacifying the country and the formation of a broad-based government. So, well, according to this, it would appear as though the two gentlemen are in bed together. Ministry unveils 161 member team to Paris Olympics. Now, I'm interested in whether the majority of these members are athletes.
That is always the question when it comes to Kenya's representation, isn't it? Yes, because for the longest time, the perception has always been that officials and those related to them are far more important than the athletes.
Than the actual athletes.
Yes.
That's always been a thing. Well, we'll look into that. Kenyan police retake port from Haiti gangs. Gangsters defeated after gunfight. So the Kenyan boys and girls are doing something.
Who's reporting that?
I'll tell you, but it's on page 2, so it's a big thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'd like to understand more of what is...
Of exactly what happened?
Yep.
We will tell you just now who will become the next police boss. Many appointments, assignments are being waited on, and the next police boss, there's the possibility of Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja. Major General Afaksad Kyungu is the Kenya Military Academy Commandant, and Nyale Muga is the Kenya Police College Commandant. It looks like it would oscillate around these three gentlemen. Let's see who it will be. Autopsy. Nakuru student fell out of a moving car. There was that story of this girl who was found dead, but it would appear as though she
fell
was...
out.
Well, you don't just fall out of a car.
And then there's fallout.
And then there's fallout, and then there's fallout.
Okay.
All right. So it seems as though the SRC widens pay rise freeze and all public servants will be hit. The move is informed by financial struggles facing the exchequer in light of growing debt repayment obligations and missed revenue targets. So folks will not be getting pay rises, according to our dear Madam Lynn Mengich.
Okay, it's like that.
It's like that, too.
You know, this is very interesting. This discussion of austerity measures. Oh, austerity measures. You know, this thing, it's a whole debate. And whether the call for austerity measures as prescribed by the IMF have actually ever worked anywhere.
Something to ask, Abi?
Well, yeah, one has to ask, because in reality, where have they worked?
That's a very good question.
There's a question of reorganizing. Your budget lines, reorganize the country, but the way a country bounces back is when there's a huge injection of mullah into the economy. Yes, that's how it bounces back.
Without that,
you reduce supply, you reduce circulation, and countries are supposed to bounce back. But in that one,
hard.
Forget hard. I stand to be corrected here. Where it has worked, I should be told. Then I will know, then I'll stop saying what I'm saying.
Okay. What do you have in the headlines?
Right. Top right-hand corner until... No, actually it's in... No, this is burnt brown.
It's burnt orange today?
Yes, burnt... Thank you. Burnt orange is a good word.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. Burnt orange. Siasa, page 11. Are Gen Z outwitting... Okay. Are Gen Z... unwitting pawns in long-standing political struggle? Are they a pawn? Well, in that case, then let's ask the question. Those who in the past have sought this manner of liberation, were they pawns? Or were they agitating for something that was real, and did they represent the need for change? That is often measured by the support that such upheavals have. If they have support, then you cannot doubt that this is popular and people support it.
Sure.
Yes. Right. Slain quarry woman was social media addict. Remember the picture of the lady whose mother later recognized, identified the body, yes?
Yeah.
The brother says, well, she was a social media addict. And there's a very, very bizarre story on page 3 of the Star. Shock after schoolgirl 14 dies by suicide in Naivasha. From one student, another girl was suspended over allegations of love affair.
Okay, amongst themselves.
Yes. So it is said she committed suicide. Pain. Shocker to varsity students after state slashes funding. This one is a horror story. When you think of the hopes that parents have in their children acquiring higher education, then you're told, the PS says, and I'm quoting, 22.9 billion needed to sustain learners, which has not been provided. Meaning, yes. Let me tell you, the fees that people were paying, let me just say it has skyrocketed.
My goodness.
And essentially what that has happened, if you're talking of university education, it has actually placed university education out of the reach of very many
people. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Yes.
We're already seeing it now. Of the 200 and something thousand slots which are still up and available for pickup in universities across the country, they're still vacant.
Yes. You know, this one is a serious story. We will look into it later.
Yep.
Bang in the middle of the paper.
Of course.
Azimio death. Bigwigs divorce over Ruto deal. Now the star is definitive on this one. They're saying Raila's ODM to join Ruto's unity government, but Kalonzo and Karua flatly reject plans. This is an interesting story. It is a very interesting story.
Things fall apart.
Yes.
Center cannot
hold. That is usually how it goes, isn't it? And it will be interesting to see how this one unfolds, won't it?
Very. In the coming days. It's not going to take long, by the way.
It won't take very long. And one of the things that we appreciate about our politicians is the flexible backbone that they have.
You can be one way today.
2 days, one way, firmly spitting fire.
Yeah.
Volcanic lava. Next day, rip.
Who said? Me.
Why is it that people are in the habit of misunderstanding the things I say?
That is not what I meant. I said this indeed. Yes, that's me in the video.
But
what I meant.
Did they even bother to ask me what I meant?
Should have asked me.
Here they are deciding for me what I meant, when it is clear that what I meant was actually this. But this is not anything new.
No, it's not.
No, not in this country. We've had these people coming together, things falling apart, people breaking up, mending fences again, one joining another coalition, and so forth. But of interest is this. This is a coalition that reminds one of 2007, 2008. Okay? Let's see how it works out, shall we?
Let's see how it works out. In the meantime, let's take a look at what's happening on the roads, and we're going to come back and look at these stories in greater detail. We're getting to 27 minutes to 7 o'clock, looking at some of the stories in the headlines today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside.
Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since I'm not shipping out.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the sheep in the bathtub? Or
the sheep man?
One of Talam used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a sheep. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the sheep or sheep goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
all right, some of that is starting to build on the thicker superhighway this morning coming into the CBD. But again, nothing to worry about, just a smidgen of that as you get towards the Pangani underpass. Before that, nothing major. On Kangunda Road this morning, we're seeing some traffic then spill over towards Outer Ring, going through towards the thicker superhighway or in this other direction towards North Airport Road. You're not going to have a problem with that. Traffic coming off of Naivasha Road and this in from Kikuyu Road and then touching on Gong Road is what we see then building slightly, but again, very, very manageable this morning. Let's take a quick look at Westlands. That traffic that comes then through towards Chiromo, all the way down Wayaki Way. Just a little bit of busyness there. Limuru Road is not looking bad as well. At least at this hour, you're going to be able to get where you're going without too much of an issue. So for now, we're all right. Let's see what happens when we get to the top of the hour. And then into traffic hour, we'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Okay, so there's so many things to look at. But let me tell you what's happening in Haiti with the Kenyan police. Okay? So you know the
story is in which
it's in The Nation.
Right.
It's on page 2.
Right.
The headline is Big Win for Kenyan Police in Fierce Battle for Port with Haiti Gangsters.
Right.
Dun, dun. Now, let me arrange myself so that I tell you properly. Kenyan police officers in Haiti and their local partners have regained control of the port that has been in gangs' hands for the past 5 months. Can you imagine? The officers who were operating under the auspices of the Multinational Security Support MSS mission on Wednesday recaptured Autorité Portuaire Nationale, that's the APN port, which fell to the gangs on the 6th of March. The port is located within Port-au-Prince, the Haitian capital. Speaking exclusively to The Nation yesterday, MSS Mission Commander Jeffrey Otunge said the gangs were defeated after a fierce gunfight. The Kenyan contingent and the Haiti police officers managed to repulse the gangs that had started shooting at them. This further saw the officers take over the port, which the gangs had been controlling. When they took over port operations, the gangs barred food, medical aid and supplies, including humanitarian relief, from entering the troubled Caribbean nation. The port was one of the remaining entries into Haiti that the United Nations was using to deliver humanitarian assistance to the people. Most of them unable to fend for themselves. The clash between the officers and the gangs happened just a few meters from the White Palace, the official residence of Haiti's president. This was the first ever assignment where Kenyan officers were engaging gang members in combat as they travelled from Toussaint-Louverture International Airport to the Autorité Portuaire Nationale port. Mr. Otunge, a senior assistant inspector general of police, said Wednesday's assignment was the first one to take place in the central part of the city. Most of their work had previously focused on the capital's main square. So this seems like a big win. What is a big win if they've taken over the gang ports that had previously been controlled by the gangs? You know?
So
it was all pretty tongue-in-cheek before that, but now it looks as though, you know.
And we're saying that after a gun battle, they won the gun battle.
Yeah, and they took over the port that had been in control of the gangs since the 6th of May.
Okay. Okay. That definitely qualifies as a win.
Isn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the story, is it?
How did you know?
Well, usually when you hear of such a win, it may be the beginning of a story. After the win, then what? Because then what? If these gangs or this gang occupied the port, they were benefits they were deriving from it. So I cannot imagine that they're just going to roll over
and say, "Oh, the Kenyan police
these guys have
took
taken over, so it is okay.
Fine,
let's look for somewhere else to occupy." I don't see that happening.
Might be a bit tricky.
Yes.
The Prime Minister is now expected to visit the port and assess the situation once it is confirmed that the facility is secure and that the gangs have been wiped out. Mr. Cornel is expected to visit the area and assess the situation. In the past, he had maintained that he will not give room for negotiations with the gang. So the best way was to essentially take them out. So now is when he will say he will go and visit. It is still a developing situation, so it's one to watch and see what happens, you know, futurely. Let's see. Roger?
Right. I was telling you this story of the 14-year-old girl. A 14-year-old girl died by suicide in a Naivasha estate days after she was suspended from school over allegations that she had a romantic relationship with other girls. The teenager hanged herself in the family home in Kayole estate off the Nairobi-Nakuru highway hours before she was to report back to school. Last week, the Form 1 student and other girls were suspended from school on allegations that they had a love relationship. The school directed that the affected students undergo sessions of mandatory counseling before reporting back to school. An elder, Joseph Mwai from the estate, said the girl did not want to return to school due to the fear of ridicule and shame.
So she killed herself?
Yes, she did. She said that the grandmother who was living with the teenager found her body hanging next to the house minutes after she woke up to prepare and in order to return to school. The girl and others had been suspended for around a week due to their behavior and was supposed to return after counseling, but the 14-year-old decided to take her own life.
It's really sad.
This is a 14-year-old. But on an equally saddening note, in The Nation, there is a story of a young lady by the name of Eileen Cherotich, a 22-year-old Rift Valley Institute of Science and Technology student, who was found dead in Nakuru on Sunday after a night out with friends. What is bizarre and what is saddening about this story is when you read the background of the family. The family lives in a mud-walled grass-thatched house. Eileen's parents rely on odd jobs to make ends meet, and on weekends and holidays, the children also help doing odd jobs in the neighborhood to put food on the table. We did not have money for her education, and the church members raised funds to send her to college. To imagine that she has been returning home in a coffin and not a graduation gown is devastating, said the mother. You know, any death, any loss of a life is tragic and saddening. But when somebody is young, their life hasn't even begun, for heaven's sake. And then in such tragic circumstances.
And are you just looking at what the autopsy is saying, that she fell out of a moving car? Did she fall out of a moving car?
Really?
She pushed out of a moving car.
What happened really? Because you are in a moving car. The car was stationed at some point. You entered it at some point. Or did she?
Or did she? Was she forced to get into it? And as the car was moving, so what happens? One would expect that you have the central lock. Then what? She opened it and fell out? What? Was she inebriated? What was it?
Or was the door not shut properly?
What?
So the car took a turn.
And then she fell out.
These were
plonked
her friends.
out of the vehicle.
Why did somebody not go back for her?
Exactly. So you must wonder what happened.
No, this story is one of those stories that just raises more and more and more questions. Yes, because as presented, I have read, but the questions still arise.
Yeah, the questions are shouting in terms of what happened.
Yes.
My goodness. Okay, so I mean, look, there's a number of these stories in the paper today. Let's look at this one. Identity clash. Now, this is interesting. Man, assistant chief fight over paternity rights. Listen to this. 2 men have dragged an assistant chief to court seeking 4 million shillings in a battle over a name on a birth certificate. In their case filed before the High Court in Nairobi, Bernard Carino and Chupkel Ole Ndayo accused Samson Salau of scoring an unfair goal in a game where he was a player and the referee. And we're not talking about football. Stay with me, CT. They accuse him of misleading the registrar of births and deaths that he was Carino's father. Salau is an assistant chief in Narok. In the case, Carino alleged that Salau is not his father, but he erroneously bears his name on the birth certificate that recognizes the accused as his father. The respondent, in gross abuse of his powers as an assistant chief, inserted his name instead of that of the second petitioner as the first petitioner, denying him paternity of the first petitioner. The case filed before High Court Judge Bahati Mwamunye reads in part. Carino said he was born in 2000 in a love episode between Ndayo and his mother, Kiraita Sipiri. Okay?
Love episode.
Love episode.
Right.
That's what we call it nowadays.
Okay.
However, he claimed that Ambers of Love died 13 years later and the two parted ways, but before they had a child. Okay? You follow me so far? The justice heard thereafter that Ndayo and Kiraita moved on with their lives, with the woman allegedly ending up dating Salau, the assistant chief. According to Carino, Ndayo and Kiraita applied to have his birth certificate. He alleged that this is where the drama started. When my parents visited the county civil registration office, they were informed that due to the delay in applying for registration, the application has to be made through the area assistant chief. The 24-year-old told the court that Salau instead had his name on the birth certificate. He stated that the net effect of this is that he has been missing bursaries applied by Ndayo, among other things, due to the name. Because if we apply for a bursary and we put the name of your father, and then you now tell us that actually that is not the father, we cannot give you the bursary. Follow me so far?
Bursary away.
Bursary out. Now, the actions of the respondent also caused me to be deprived of rights and benefits that were accrued to me from my rightful father, including but not limited to inheritance. Because of the respondent's actions, I have been the subject of ridicule by my peers due to the true paternity being omitted in my birth certificate. For goodness sake, something that would seem so simple then has been dragged into courts, and folks cannot. At the end of the day, the guy just needs to change the thing on the certificate. But it's before court now, and justice has directed that they should serve the court documents to Salau to appear for mention in September this year, and they're seeking 4 million shillings in terms of compensation from Salau for the erroneous input that he made. Get it?
Yes.
Go.
Right. Let's look at the Business Daily, shall we?
It is.
Mortgage defaults hit record 40 billion on interest rates rise. The value of non-performing mortgage loans in Kenya hit an all-time high of 40.8 billion in December 2023 on the back of higher interest rates and difficult economic conditions borrowers are facing.
Mm-hmm.
Newly released Central Bank of Kenya data shows that there was an 8% or 3 billion increase in the value of bad loans for the mortgage lenders last year, which capped a tough 2-year for the segment. The non-performing loans ratio in the segment was, and I turned the page to page 2, in the low single digits a decade ago. I have no idea what I've just read.
Neither do I.
Well, exactly. But it's in the low single digits a decade ago. Decade, I understand. The deterioration of the mortgage loan book has over the last 2 years forced lenders to repossess and auction partially paid for houses to recover their funds, while others have entered into private treaties with borrowers to sell off properties as a soft alternative to direct auctions. It's called distress. Yeah.
What on a pesa?
And let's start from the beginning. Hawana kazi.
Yeah, exactly.
And
they may have had it before. That's why they took on the thing in the first
that's why
place.
they were able to be given, because there was evidence that they could pay back the loans, the monies that they had borrowed. Now, that having been guaranteed, then something else happens. And that something else which happens, you suddenly find things are not the same.
The same.
The money that you had, where it came from, suddenly isn't there. And all of a sudden, you are having a very difficult time. And this is the story of, I think we call it a recession, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where.
So it would appear it's not a looming recession in Kenya right now, that there is actually a recession in place currently, because what do we look at? That folks are not able to meet their financial obligations or commitments, and we have that massive job loss. Previously, credit facilities are unkept.
Yes.
Those are the things that we look at.
Yes.
People have to give up their homes. Auctioneers now are doing the business. That's what we talk about.
But also of interest, if you look at the pages where the auctioneers advertise the impending sale of these assets, and if you talk to them, they will tell you that you may want to sell, but the buyers are not that many.
Right.
That's why people are going into treaties, meaning I own the property, I owe you money bank, we sit, we talk, and we say, look, guys, this is what I can do, and this I actually cannot do.
Exactly.
So how do we go about this thing? Let's find a nice, easy way of solving this problem. That's what's happening now. And it's a better way of doing business. Because who knows, maybe the person whose house is likely to be sold can assist in getting a buyer for that particular property.
Indeed.
Yes. But by the look of things, this situation that we're talking about is not likely to come to a halt soon.
Not soon.
No, not soon.
So, you know that thing that you said about having to inject, when you see that things are depressed, and I'm not talking about your feelings, depressed just naturally, going low.
Yes.
That what you need is capital injection.
Yep.
That is what you need. There's no two ways about it. You cannot romanticize the situation. You can't say, oh, things will get better and the sun will shine again. No. You need to actually inject capital in order for these particular gaps to be filled. And then now you restart the thing and move from there. That is what needs to happen.
Actually, you see the injection of capital in the economy is precisely what the World Bank and IMF were set up for after the Second World War.
Where they were building Germany, at least Western Europe, essentially.
Yes, that's what they were doing. They were building Western Europe. And the process of building Western Europe, this thing required thinking, financing, and planning. Now, did they ask Western Europe to go into austerity measures? No. They injected money. Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Exactly.
Okay? So, the situation that we're in now is not dissimilar to what was in the aftermath of 1945, where the recession was profound.
So then you know what, CT? One must ask. If they know, because look, let's look at the states in Western Europe that actually got a build. Great Britain, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal to an extent. Most of the countries in Western Europe, Greece, they got some of this money
Ireland.
For building, right?
Yep, they did.
They were not asked as they were being given this money to do 1, 2, 3. So they understood this concept that what we need to do is inject funds here. So one must ask the question that when now they inject funds into the southern hemisphere, countries in Africa, why do these come with measures? If you know very well that in order to come out of recession, what you do need is a sustained amount of capital injection.
Yes.
If truly your desire is to have that happen, inject the money. These austerity measures and other conditions that you talk about, in my opinion, are a stooge to keep you below deck. But that's a whole other conversation for another day. Let me tell you how the court has trashed police protest ban in Nairobi. Kenyans can now freely picket in Nairobi and its environs after the High Court suspended a ban on protests Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja had issued. Justice Bahati Mwamuye, while suspending Kanja's order barring demonstrations in Nairobi, noted that Kenyans have a right to picket, ordering the police not to enforce their boss's order. I like the way the Standard has put this. A conservatory order is hereby issued restraining the Inspector General of Police and all other persons serving within the National Police Service or acting in support of NPS in the discharge of its law enforcement functions from applying or enforcing the Inspector General of Police impugned decision dating July 17th, 2024. She issued the orders pending the determination of a petition filed by Katiba Institute through lawyer Joshua Malidzo, terming the IG's order illegal and unconstitutional. The judge also ordered the acting IG to issue an official communication to all the officers of the NPS and the general public on the suspension of the ban not later than Friday, July 19th, which is today. Mwamuye further directed the IG and Attorney General to file the responses to the petition within 2 days before the mention of the case comes on the 29th of July. Katiba Institute filed its case hours after Kanja on Wednesday evening issued a ban on the planned protests within the Nairobi CBD. The decision by NPS was relayed in a press release on the 17th of July. So the Constitution actually does allow picketing and all these things. Until the case is determined, court says, nah, guys, let them picket, and you rescind that order. It'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of that.
It will. You know, when one talks about change and one talks about the democratic process and how it is attained, you never actually get to a point where it's fully attained. Not really. It's something that is always a work in progress. But then one also has to check back and look at the progress that has been made, milestones that have been achieved. You see, back on that topic before we got into this, you see, ask yourself right now.
Ask myself right now.
If we ask ourselves,
okay.
Do we have a depressed economy? We do.
Yes.
Okay, so when you have austerity measures, what do? You depress it further.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so how exactly is it going to recover?
It doesn't.
You know,
it's not like antibiotics that you feel better before you feel worse.
No.
In this case, it's making you feel worse and worse and worse.
There is a Nobel Prize winning economist called Paul Krugman. He doesn't have very kind words to say about the issue of austerity measures. He calls it a delusion. How do you explain? Because think about it logically. How do you explain a situation where, for instance, you're being told, because you are hungry and you don't have food, the way in which you deal with this is you go on hunger
strike.
Exactly. How exactly will that work out?
It doesn't.
Huh? Anyway, let's look at one more. Yes, we have time for just one more. Right. In the star. Yes. Azimio death. Bigwigs divorce over Ruto deal. This particular headline, in my mind, represents the big fallacy that our political systems are. And I say a fallacy in this sense, because of the never-ending changing landscape of our politics in terms of association, in terms of coming together, in terms of whatever you want to call it, okay? The question you ask yourself, what really do our politicians and our political parties stand for? Because when you move as much as they move around, one moment you are saying this, the next moment you're saying the other. What do you actually stand for?
Look, is this not one thing that we've said all the time? That we know for a fact that here, political parties are a far cry from the original idea of what political parties were meant to be for. That there's an ideology upon which you're based, and that you as an individual politician or somebody who wants to go and serve in that position, then now take membership and you say, look, I will run as a member of this political party because these are the ideologies that I agree with and this is where the party is going. But here, CT, you and I could sit over a cup of coffee today and say, look, we want to be president tomorrow, and then we form some tinker-dink political party, and that's just it. We get members and then we move with the thing. Here it is individuals who form parties and the people coalesce around them. They can say they have ideologies, but they don't. Because if you did have an ideology, guess what? Whatever political winds are blowing in whichever direction, you would be swayed. Swayed, thank you, that's the word. You would not be swayed by the wind. No. But here, somebody just does, and you're gone, you're toppled over. Somebody does in that other direction, and voila, you've gone. So what ideology is it based on, pray tell?
You know, every time you think of Azimio, you think of Wiper, Kenya,
Jubilee,
ODM. Let me just read. It's Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, Kenya African National Union, KANU, Kenya Rainbow Coalition, that's NAC, National Rainbow Coalition, that's NAC Kenya, Muungano Party, Democratic Action Party, Devolution Empowerment Party, if you didn't know it exists, Pamoja African Alliance, if you didn't know it exists, Kenya Union Party, United Democratic Party, Kenya Reform Party, Chama cha Uzalendo, National Liberal Party, Party of Growth and Prosperity, this one I like, this one I like.
Fantastic.
Party of National Unity, PNU, Ubuntu People's Forum, thank you very much. This and you're here. People's Trust Party, in case
Even
you don't
better.
have Ubuntu,
You
move
can have
towards
trust.
Okay. National Liberal Party, and surely if all these things fail, let's just be liberal about this whole thing, shall we?
Who belongs to them? Do you know?
I honestly am not very clear about what happened here. But we are in for an interesting ride of musical chairs. The only difference is that right now, the musical chairs are not just going to be played by our usual suspects.
No, the jostling. The jostling is crazy. People are not sleeping again at night so that they can find themselves on the right side of rain, then to be selected or come and be part of. For goodness sake.
And then there are new kids on the block. Literally. New
kids on the block.
And very, very influential. And they are going to have a say. So again, it cannot be business as usual.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes.
I don't know.
You don't know.
All this happening while all public servants are not going to get a pay rise. SRC says, Exchequer not giving us money, and there's a problem. Onge pesa. SRC has extended the freeze on salary increments to all public servants, officers, dimming hopes of thousands of government employees seeking improved take-home amounts. SRC yesterday said the move was informed by the financial struggles facing the Exchequer in light of growing debt repayment obligations and missed revenue collections. The decision follows a similar move to free salary increments for top state officers, including President William Ruto, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, cabinet secretaries and lawmakers. So, we're going to reduce it just a little bit. And you might not be taking home what you used to take home. And SRC's look says the only way. The freeze will jolt thousands of public servants who had hinged hopes of increased pay to boost fitting pay slips amid a high cost of living. So they had seen, okay, we can understand that the cost of living is high. Let's help. Not so much. See what happens as we continue with conversations this morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni now claims that Azimio won't engage in talks with Kenya Kwanza government over the political climate in the country. Speaking on a video on Space, Kioni reiterated that Azimio will continue to support Gen Zs over the issues they've raised with the government, as including that of the change in leadership in the country.
We have had a series of meetings as members of Azimio at different levels. We may have been leading different scripts before the meetings that we had yesterday and the meeting that we had this afternoon. The official position of Azimio is that we are not entering into any dialogue with UDA. We are not joining the government of William Ruto. We start by the demands that have been put forward by Gen Z, and we have demands that we made that needs to be addressed very, very quickly.
This week, ODM said that the victims of the protests must be compensated by the government before negotiations can begin. In addition, the party wants the officers involved in the killing of the protesters to be held accountable, as well as the resignation of the Nairobi police commander, Adamson Bungei, before the negotiations begin. This comes at a time while DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa has distanced himself from the talks and asked President Ruto to resign following what he termed as him failing to lead the nation.
The position we have taken as DAP is that we will not be party to the dialogue or to the broad-based government. If our colleagues in Azimio choose to join, will not be party to it. That will be their position. As I have said, I have no intention or any inclination to join William Ruto's government, and even if he offered me my previous docket, I'm not boarding. Because I believe what is wrong is not really the cabinet. I believe we have a wrong leader in State House, and the problem is William Ruto, not the dismissed cabinet or the cabinet that going to form. That is where the problem is, and for us to correct it, for us to end corruption in this country, for us to end tribalism in this country, Ruto must go.
Just a day after a motion seeking to impeach Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza was tabled in the County Assembly for alleged abuse of office and violation of the Constitution, division among MCAs has been witnessed. Some representatives have vowed to reject the motion when it begins being debated, reiterating that the plan to remove Governor Mwangaza from office is being funded by her political opponents.
Hii mswada imekuja juu ya kura ya 2027. Kuna watu bando hawajakubali governor ni mama, na kuna watu bando wanataka governor atoke na through impeachment ndiye asiweze kusimama kiti 2027.
Ni kweli tumekuwa na embarrassment, lakini sisi wenye wanasupport wa governor tumejiondoa kabisa kwa hiyo maneno, na hatutakubali hiyo maneno iweze kuendelea.
However, some residents of the county fully support the mover of the motion, who's Deputy Majority Leader in the Parliament, Zipporah Kenya, saying that Mwangaza has failed in her duties since she came to power in the year 2022.
Hatujakuwa tukipata milandi kama vijana hapa kaunti ya Meru, kwa maana governor afanyi kazi na vijana.
Juzi tu wale viongozi walipotaka kufanya budget yenye ni itemized na wapeleke allocation kubwa pale 45 million. Kawira Mwangaza alikataa, maana anataka apewe blank check enye ataenda tu akiharibu pesa mingi nayo.
This will be the third time that a motion to impeach the governor has been tabled. A High Court judge sitting at the Milimani Law Courts has suspended a police ban on protests within Nairobi's Central Business District and its surrounding areas. Justice Bahati Mwamuye issued the directions following an urgent application contesting an order by acting IG Douglas Kanja. Kanja declared a ban on protests in a statement on Wednesday, citing the lack of a clear leader in the Gen Z-led protests, a situation he said had hampered police efforts to enforce safety protocols. While certifying the suit urgent, Justice Mwamuye directed the state to file its response by Tuesday next week, ahead of further directions that will be issued on July 29th. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Traffic is quite busy on the Thika Superhighway this morning, and it's coming in heavy through towards the Pangani underpass. We're looking at traffic also coming off of Kiambu Road, going round towards Muthaiga Square and then joining right around Pangani. So that's busy this morning. And we're also looking at busyness happening on Kangunda Road this morning, touching on Outer Ring. It's busy on Chiromo, also then busy coming out of Westlands. James Gishuri, as you cross over towards the Red Hill Link Road, has some traffic, quite some of that as you're getting out towards Westlands. Take a quick look at what is building on Ngong Road. There is quite some traffic here as well. And we're also seeing quite some traffic on Kingara Road this morning as you get off of Ngong Road out towards James Gishuru. So that's going to slow things down just a little bit. Quick look at Langata Road, and I think we're okay. Magadi Road on Fridays is always building up. Not quite sure why, but we'll see some movement as you get then onto Langata Road later. We're going to get into traffic hours soon enough. Let's see what happens. And it looks like it's piling up to be a busy Friday. Be safe whatever you do. Talk to us about what you see. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X. # The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 7 on this 19th of July, getting into Friday and then into the weekend. Kenya's biggest conversation continues at 7 o'clock into the second hour of the show this morning. All right, guys, as you tuned in on YouTube, our streaming platforms on Facebook, on X, and as well on TikTok, wherever it is that you're joining us, and our audiences on KTN Home, we're into it this morning. We're getting into our conversation for the hour, and our guest is here. It's been a minute, but always a pleasure to have you. Suleiman Shabal is a member of Parliament, the East African Legislative Assembly, and he has been away for some time, shuttling, I assume, between Arusha and Nairobi, but he's here this morning. Suleiman, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's always a pleasure to be here. Like I keep saying every time, this is probably one of the most interesting talk shows, because this is a very challenging talk show. Always starting with some very serious African proverbs.
Indeed.
Yes.
See why I like it? Because now you just make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because now CT has gone to a place whereby, some people didn't even know existed to get proverbs from this morning. And now let's welcome you properly with the proverb today.
Yes, this is our final proverb from the island republic of Cabo Verde, otherwise known as Cape Verde. In new surroundings, the hen will walk on one leg.
That is a little bit too sophisticated for me this early in the morning. I'm trying to figure out, because I've never seen a chicken walk on one leg. So
is it walk
clearly
or stand?
This is above my depth here.
Walk.
It's walk.
No, it is not. All you need to do is say what you think. That's it. And that you can do.
I'm sure you can imagine.
That I always do.
Yes.
That I always do. And sometimes it gets me into trouble, but...
Please we give you permission to get into trouble this morning. Okay. What does it mean to you? What do you think?
In what respect? Are you talking about the proverb?
About the proverb.
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm trying to figure out what it means.
Okay, how about we say, when a chicken gets into a new... What did you say? Into a new yard. Into a new what?
In new surroundings.
In new surroundings.
The hen will walk on one leg.
How about we change walk to stand? In new surroundings, the hen will stand on one leg.
I've never seen that.
They do.
But you see, I'm also trying to understand why would a chicken walk on one leg or stand on one leg? Maybe I haven't lived on a chicken farm. But I guess in new circumstances, people would tend to be a little bit extra cautious. Maybe that's my simplistic interpretation of that very deep proverb.
Voila.
You know, when you're on one leg, if you want to move forward, you'll have to hop.
Yeah. Well, if you want to stand still, you've got to balance.
You have to balance. So one leg means movement is limited. And in new surroundings, you're spot on. One is likely to be cautious. When you're cautious, you don't move. Or if you move minimally. Yes, until you are now sure of your footing. Then you actually move forward. Yes.
Your flowers all the same, Suleiman.
Did you know, Mheshimiwa, that one of the unique things about Cape Verde or Cabo Verde is that it's one of those unique countries on this planet where the population of its citizens outside the country, in the diaspora, are actually more than the citizens who actually are in the country.
There are a few other examples to that.
Yes.
The Seychelles is one.
Yes.
There are only 90,000 people in the Seychelles.
But
there are more outside.
Yes.
If you take the example of Ireland, there are more Irish people living outside Irish, in fact, in the US than living in Ireland itself.
Ireland, yeah. Yeah. There you go. Many Irish states in the US.
Correct.
Yeah. So, Mheshimiwa, how are things at Yala? Let's start there. Being in Arusha, shuttling between Arusha and Nairobi.
You asked me about Yala, which is 2.5 hours away, when 20 minutes outside the studio, the country is literally burning.
Exactly. I wanted to bring you from outside.
I think
to
right now, let's forget about Yala. Let's talk about what's happening.
There's a reason I asked that, and I just need you to answer that.
Yes.
Coming from outside looking in, how are things out there?
Number one, the perception about Yala is a little wrong. You know, we don't actually live in Arusha, nor do we work in Arusha. Arusha happens to be the headquarters of the East African community. Our parliament meets on a quarterly basis and it circulates. So in March, the parliament was actually in Nairobi. In June, it was in Arusha. In September, I don't know where it will be. The community has its own challenges, largely from a funding perspective, because some of the states, member states, are not contributing their financial contribution. I think the community, the ESC, needs to be radically reformed because the objective of a parliament is three things: represent, oversight, and legislate. Yala can legislate, but whatever legislation it makes can get stuck at the Council of Ministers and not move on to the summit. Yala can grind to a halt because of a quorum rule that requires that every country must be there. Now, this was done when the East African community was Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. So naturally, it made sense if one of the countries wasn't there, that there's no quorum. But today, there are 7 countries. Now, the day DRC has problems with Rwanda, DRC will not come to a meeting in Rwanda. And you have lack of quorum. So there's a need to reform the East African community. But that is way above my pay grade. So right now, my focus really and my serious concern is less on Yala and more what's happening here at home.
All right. Yeah. So Kenya, obviously, being one of the member states of the community, and then asking questions about what is happening internally. There have been protests. Those protests are still ongoing. There's promise of protests to come in the future. And the protests are markedly against poor governance, wastage at a government level, individuals perhaps who are not fulfilling their duty across board. First off, what do you think about what has happened in less than 1 month in the country today? Things have escalated, and we've seen things happen in a very short time that in many cases didn't happen in decades. Your overview.
I think this is the most exciting thing that has ever happened in Kenya. Perhaps the only thing that would come even close to this is actually the fight for independence. Because in the matter of a few weeks, the youth have managed to change or to turn the system upside down. And I applaud them. And I'm proud of them. And I think we should pay tribute to those who fell in this struggle. And it has given me a lot of time to introspect. And a lot of the things that have happened have confirmed what I have always believed in my politics. For example, in Mombasa, I arranged training programs for our youth members. And my question was always, don't tell me about the problems. We already know what the problems are. Now, if you aspire to be a leader, what are the solutions? And then you find that, they come together as a group and, very articulate on articulating the problems. Corruption, water, education, tara. Okay, thank you very much. Now we already know that.
Yeah.
Any standard 8 student will tell you that we have a big problem with corruption. What is the solution? And I think today, when we look at what's happening in the country, the revolution has come. The revolution's arrived. But what next? Where are the solutions? Now, the challenge to the Gen Z today is, okay, you've shaken up the system, you've forced changes, but the next thing now is to start identifying how do we change our country. And this is a golden opportunity for Kenya to reinvent itself. And I have plenty of ideas that, from my own limited political experience, that I think we as a nation must use to change our country. Who? Good question. Because you see, the issue here is not individuals. Individuals change. And I have seen this from many youth activists. I've seen a couple of youth activists, very active, very aggressive, very energized. The minute they become nominated senators or nominated members of parliament, the first thing they do, they go and buy a big Land Cruiser. And then they change their location and they change their style, they change their entourage. They join the political class. Everything that they had preached before changes because they become part of the elite. If you go back to the famous book Animal Farm, it is the pigs which led the revolution.
Yeah.
But once they got in, the saying 4 legs good, 2 legs bad changed to a different story. The issue here is not individuals. The issue here is the institutions and the way we run things, the change. Now, today I brought a book with me because this is a book that I've read a couple of years back. And what's happening here brought me a sense of deja vu. The book is called Why Nations Fail. The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. You see that nexus, power, prosperity, and poverty. And this book identifies many, many different countries, why they succeed, why they fail. And if you'll allow me just one thing that I wanted to read here.
Sure.
And here he's referring to Egypt after the Arab Spring. And he says, the Egyptians, the things that held them back include an ineffective and corrupt state and a society where they cannot use their talent, ambition, ingenuity, and what education they can get. But they also recognize that the root of their problems are political. All the economic impediments they face stem from the way political power in Egypt is exercised and monopolized by a narrow elite. This, they understand, is the first thing that has to change. Then they talk about analysis. Or Egypt is poor, or it is held back because of its geography. Others talk about the cultural attributes of Egyptians. Others say Egyptians lack some sort of lack of work ethic, cultural traits. And then others argue that the rulers of Egypt simply don't know what is needed to make the country prosperous and what followed incorrect policies and strategies in the past. It's as if they're talking about Kenya. These are the same things they're talking about. But he's saying here that in this book will argue that the Egyptians in Tahrir Square, not the academicians and commentators, were correct. And that the problem here is that political power has been narrowly concentrated and has been used to create great wealth for those who possess it, such as the 70 billion fortune apparently accumulated by the ex-president Mubarak. The losers have been the Egyptian people, as we well truly know.
Can extrapolate to Kenya?
100%. But if you look back at the Arab Spring, it brought down the government in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Libya, in Yemen, and many other places. But did it change the system? One set of rulers was replaced, another set of rulers came in, the situation continued exactly as it had. So where is the challenge? It is institutions that have to change.
Don't we hear that as a cry, even from this movement right now, whereby the call is, no, that there's certain things that we cannot continue to allow to happen. The bringing down of certain offices, for example, that are unconstitutional, saying that the kind of spend that is happening in the country at the moment cannot continue to happen. There cannot be government wastage at the ways, the levels to which we've seen, that the debt, which is inexplicable at the moment, cannot continue to be a thing. Unconstitutional offices. And so the movement would agree with you, Mweshimiwa, that, you know what, it's not about an individual, and that's why we hear the cries from the movement that there is no leader. We're asking you to be accountable. We're asking you to govern properly. So it's not about the who, it's about the what.
It's about the how. And I go back to, again, the way we run our country. I have always believed in proportional representation. I even submitted a representation to BBI that we need to have proportionate representation. Now, proportionate representation means that every group which is large enough needs to be represented, not just in parliament, but even in the executive. So, if we have a situation like we do in Kenya, where Raila Odinga supposedly has 49% of the people behind him, but doesn't have the authority to appoint even a messenger in the government, clearly we have a problem. We have a cabinet which is appointed 100% by one man.
The president, yeah.
Do you expect any member of that cabinet to have the authority to challenge the president on anything? Absolutely not. Because he knows he's hired at the pleasure of the president and can be shown the door at the pleasure of the president. This is why board of directors always have independent directors, so that there is a voice of reason in that cabinet that can argue no. Now, coalition governments tend to be a little stormy. And sometimes these storms lead to the dissolution of government. But if we reach a stage where that government has no checks and balances, then we have a problem. Now, in Kenya here, we have a situation of a president who is extremely detailed and very hands-on. You know, William Ruto is the type of president where you go to him with an issue, and I've dealt with him before in the past. You go to him with an issue, and the response is immediate. Hapana, hiyo haiwezekani. That's the end of the story. Or, if he agrees, he picks up the phone on the spot and gives instructions, which means you have a very effective president. But it also means that you have, when a person is very detail-oriented, he can tend to be a micromanager. But it comes back, let's not talk about individuals, let's talk about the system. If you don't have people in that cabinet who can come up and say, no, this is not realistic. Okay, look at the finance bill.
Yeah.
Some of the issues in that finance bill were outright insensitive. When people are struggling to put food on the table, and you raise the price of bread and cooking oil, hey, you wonder, surely there must have been somebody on that cabinet who should have said, excuse me, Your Excellency, this is not acceptable. Silence. I'm not in the cabinet, so I don't know, but that is the type of representation that we need. In Kenya, at one time, we had the Nusumkati government. a lot of noise, a lot of fracas and this and that. But let's face it, it was the most effective government we've had since independence. I have always believed that we must have proportionate representation. And let us give our institutions the independence. Now, our system of government is based on 3 checks and balances: the legislation, the judiciary, and the executive. The legislative was totally controlled from State House. So Kenya Kwanza summoned to State House and given marching orders, toe the party line or else, and they go back to Parliament and they do exactly what they're told. So that checks was eroded. In the executive, when everybody is appointed by the president and can be fired by the president, there's no checks and balances either.
So what does it... So when we're talking about saying checks and balances, and the folks who are supposed to actually put in these checks and balances in terms of a system, like you say, having been appointed by the executive himself, it's not possible then for you to check the person that you're politically subservient to.
That's precisely what I'm saying. And that's precisely why I have always argued that even in government, this system that we have, this constitution that we wrote and celebrated so much, did not create those checks and balances. And we've seen how they can be subverted, either openly or by design or by default. But the fact is it doesn't work. So let's not complain. Let's not keep on complaining. Oh, it's Ruto. If it had been Raila, probably would have had the same issues. Okay. It is not the individuals that we should be focusing on. It is the system.
How do we change the system?
This crisis that we have, the beauty about this crisis, it gives us an opportunity to reinvent the way we run our government. Let's talk about corruption, for example. Everybody will talk about corruption. I've been listening to this show, and I've had CT here, I've had you, I've had Eric, continuously hammering the issue of corruption. But I think now we need to move away from saying this is the problem. Let's move now to the next issue. How do we solve it?
And I think that such a conversation then comes from, continuing to discuss it. Because
I beg to disagree. We've discussed it to death.
But you have to discuss. You have to discuss solutions.
We have discussed it to death.
What are the solutions?
Now let us discuss the solutions.
Throw people in jail.
That's one of the solutions. But it hasn't worked. All right, we've set up ESCC. We brought in all sorts of characters to run ESCC. Has it really been effective? No.
Actually, it has not been ineffective. You see, if you look at where we are at right now, historically, you could argue that the past that we are now speaking of cumulatively gave this generation the tools with which they can now do what they're doing. Which is one, a precedence. You saw what happened, so you learned from it. You know what to do and what not to do. And then age just caught up with them. Age and time, meaning we're in the communication age or communication era, an era which we were not in before. So everything that has to do with mobilization, communication has completely and totally changed. And when you talk of Gen Z, it's not a group of aliens who've descended into the country. They are our children, they are our brothers, they are our sisters, and they've been experiencing everything that has happened from the time they were born, and so they have been quiet observers. Now, I say this because everything you say is correct. Everything you say is spot on, because a lot of it has to do with your lived experience. You can't be a politician as you have been and not experience an enormous amount of suffering, enormous amount of disappointment. Now, this is the learning process. You have children. They live with you, they see, they observe. Now, what they observe, they conclude. And they decide, something? They didn't need to go to Makadara grounds or Uhuru Park. They will communicate with people you don't know, right across the country. People who share the same views, people who share the same experience. And that's why I say that history has enabled them. It has been the ground on which they can actually build what they now have. And they've been courageous enough to take that bold step. But I dare say, bold steps were taken before. The time that we live in has made it possible for very many things to actually occur. And the one thing that has stood out, for the first time in our history, those in positions of leadership, political and otherwise, know that they are going to be held to account.
How do you, and we're going to go to a break in a bit, but I just want to tackle before we do, that how then do we institute systems whereby folks will be accountable, that folks will shudder at the thought of doing anything corrupt, and that we're doing it, or we want to bring it about in a time whereby the practice for the longest time has been, well, we're going to do whatever it is that we want. Impunity is rife all over the place. But now we are saying that the demand of the people is that we cannot continue the way things were before. There are jurisdictions on this planet whereby the slightest imagination, not even thought or action, imagination of something corrupt is very far from the minds of anybody. And the system demands that you will go and you will do your job as in the way in which it's supposed to be. You will account for every penny, you will account for every action. The system demands that of you. And everybody has gotten used to operating like that. How do we get there?
When you say the system demands, it's a theoretical statement that you're making. I would like to challenge the Gen Z, and I would like to challenge the youth. Let us use technology. You know, today our biggest problem, corruption, stems from procurement. We have a long set of very arcane procurement laws that are just incredibly convoluted and totally ineffective, because all the corruption stems from these procurement laws. Now, if we're tendering for the purchase of this book, why can't we have that on the internet so that people can see what Suleiman has offered, what CT has offered, what 10 other people have offered? Let it be completely transparent. What is the price? What are the terms that I'm offering? Let it be a completely open book thing that every bidder can see. And then if the parastatal chiefs or the ministers or whoever give that tender to CT, and my tender is 20% lower, and it's transparent for everybody to see, then, my friend, you will see what will happen in this country.
Somebody has to lead the charge, though.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Now is the time. And William Ruto, you could say he's a very unlucky guy because, a couple of things hit him at the right time. But it's also a great opportunity for him to really dramatically change this country. And if he has, we've seen he's taken a number of very bold steps. Let us see him take even further bold steps. Change the system. Don't change the people.
Okay, let's take a break. It's at 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. Our guest for this hour is East Africa Legislative Assembly Member of Parliament, Suleiman Shabal, and we're talking about, after the protests, what next for Kenya? Change the people or change the system? We'll come back and we'll continue right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mimi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe, cheza daka, ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account, Spice, amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita, kuwa bingwa.
The weather with Spice.
Cloudy conditions at 13 in Nairobi. It's 14 and sunny in Nakuru and 14 and cloudy in Nyeri. 13 and partly sunny in Eldoret, while into a partly sunny Mombasa at 23, and at 24 it is sunny in Malindi. 19 and sunny in Kisumu and 17 and sunny in Kakamega. Kampala is cloudy at 19 and Dar es Salaam at 23 is sunny. It is 26 and mostly sunny in Mogadishu and 13 and sunny in Addis Ababa. 10 degrees and clear in Johannesburg with cloudy conditions at 25 in Lagos. It's 20 and clear in Kinshasa.
Chilled Spice.
All right, busy in the city this morning, and we're looking at just a little bit of traffic as you come off the Thika Superhighway. That hasn't been too troublesome this morning, and as you're getting out towards the Pangani underpass, I think we'll see that it would reduce significantly as you then get towards Muranga Road at the roundabout there. We're not seeing too much of that. And as you're coming off of Huru Highway, that's coming in from Westlands or coming off of this other side of Mombasa Road, crossing over Haile Selassie, nothing here either. Kingara Road was quite packed this morning as you're getting off of Ngong Road and going in the James Gishuru direction. So we're going to keep an eye on that and see what happens as we traverse this morning. We are getting into traffic hour proper right now. Let's see what happens as we go ahead. Do help us to traverse these streets this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
23 minutes left in this conversation as we look at Kenya after the protest. But this is interesting because the protests still continue, Mheshimiwa, and even as they do, there's still the push where folks are saying, agreeing with you in part, where they're saying systems must change, but they're also saying individuals must go.
Of course, individuals must go. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, we have had some people in government that have no business being anywhere close to government. Okay? And to a large extent, we as a community, as a country, as a people, allowed this, starting from the churches and the mosque. Okay? I mean, the church and the mosque were quite happy to get money from whoever was willing to bring it. Nobody once stopped and said, excuse me, hii pesa litoa wapi? Okay. Now, after the horse has run away, has bolted, is people are saying, oh, wait a minute, maybe it was not such a... Come on, man, you knew that from the beginning. The church and the mosque tolerated this. Even you gentlemen and ladies in the press, you are also guilty by omission because you kept quiet when a number of despicable people in this country got elected into very serious positions. We had governors who we all knew are thieves, got elected and nobody said a word. In fact, they went and voted. The people are also guilty because, you know, when you go and vote for somebody who you know is a criminal, and you happily go and vote for them, or you appoint him, you elect him as governor, he does nothing for 5 years, and you still happily go and sing and dance to his next re-election. What do you expect? So we, the people who are today screaming loudly, are also responsible for that.
But then I think there's a place where you can claw back from that, isn't it? And you say, okay, look, and I think all of those things chalk up where you say, fine, if in the past we've made decisions whereby people are put in positions of leadership where they've done all of nothing or have basically robbed the country blind, that we can say, well, look, eyes are open, scales have fallen off, and we're saying at this point they must go, the system must change. And there have been calls for somebody who is going to lead the charge. Am I hearing you say that right now, in the position in which he's been granted a golden opportunity, two things can happen with the president, that he can change his mindset and he can also change the course of things in the country?
I think this president has an opportunity, if he seizes this opportunity, to dramatically change this country. If he chooses to change this country. Number one, let's go back to the Constitution. Chapter 6 of the Constitution was taken up, torn into pieces, shred, and put into the dustbin. The Constitution is a statement of intent. I want to be happy. but you then have to redefine it. Now, we set very clear parameters. The people of Kenya decided what sort of leadership they wanted. They set up a code of ethics and integrity that was not followed. Now, I'm saying again, this is an opportunity. You see, you can change a country by three things: public participation, transparency, and accountability. Now, public participation has always been a controlled thing, but now is the time that the Gen Z have forced and started using the internet. Let us make that public participation nationwide. Let us hear their voices loud and clear when this government is going wrong. When it is going wrong, not after it has gone wrong. And we're not talking about just this government, we're talking about the future. So if the youth have finally started getting involved, the next question to them is, how are you going to make sure that we hold this government and the next government continuously accountable? The transparency that we're looking for.
I'd like to know what you think about that. I think that there's certain things that the executive can do today. First of all, when we look at the budgets and way budgets are made for this country, the bulk of the amounts that come in goes out towards debt repayment. And it is becoming clearer and clearer that the amount of debt that Kenya owes, can't see where it went because it was borrowed for development expenditure. You can't see where that has gone. One of the cries is for a public debt audit. Audit the public debt and find out exactly where this money went, because when you don't have the money to pay, you go back to the backs of Kenyans in taxes and ask them to bring this money so that you can pay the debt. If Kenyans cannot see where this money has gone, then there's a problem. And Kenyans can say, we don't owe this money. Public debt is one thing that's being asked for, an audit of that. The thing that you talked about, transparency, falls along these lines at the same time. There are certain things that the movement is asking the government of the day to do today, even before you appoint a new cabinet, even before you now start saying, let's recall this, that, or the other person. There are certain things that can be done today, but there seems to be no appetite to actually have those things done, because once you do it, the emperor loses his clothes. So how do you convince, apart from what Gen Z is saying, of us going into the streets until you do it? How do you convince other than that? How do you insist other than going into the streets? Revolution is won on the streets. Government is made in the boardrooms. How do you do it?
Let me just say this. Consider for a single second, going onto the streets was exactly not the beginning or the manifestation of the protest. The protest took place in their minds and in their communication and in their understanding. Going to the streets was just now a manifestation of all this. And everything that I've seen about this protest tells me that it is meticulously planned and they are clear about what they want, and they've even staged it. From this, we go to this. From this, we go to this. And this is how we go about it. To understand it, you only need to look at Nairobi and how a protest is called because a previous protest was marred by thugs and hooligans who simply reigned mayhem. It's called, but there is, people don't go. In my mind, it is clear that it's been communicated, let's not do this today because we have a problem. It's not the government banned the protests.
No.
Those who would have protested have said, we are not going to do this. Now, why am I making this statement? You said certain things, if they happened, the emperor may be seen to be naked. The emperor is already naked.
This is what I'm talking about from the emperor's point of view, that the certain demands that are being made today, the emperor does not want to open up because they will be at the doormouth of blame.
This emperor is a bold emperor. Why I say this is, when somebody is willing to sack a parliament that they appointed, okay?
Cabinet, yeah.
Cabinet. There's a parliament.
You said parliament, cabinet, yeah.
It's a Freudian slip, but the parliament also fits into that bill.
Indeed
okay?
It does.
Yes. All I'm saying is, and this is where I think Mheshimiwa wants to come in, because it's what he's been saying, that look, steps have been taken, we can see we've begun the forward march towards change. But Mheshimiwa, I hand it over to you.
No, you're completely right. You see, let's start with debt. The debt problem did not start yesterday. I mean, I grew up as a kid in Jomo Kenyatta's time. CT, you and I are dinosaurs.
We are Cro-Magnons, yes.
But I remember very clearly the president announcing, na leo tumepawa mkopo na sijui serikali ya nani, and we would all clap like it's a fantastic thing that's just happened to us. Okay? So Jomo Kenyatta borrowed money. Kibaki was a little bit more cautious. Moi borrowed money. Uhuru went on a spending spree. It's not the individual. That's what I'm talking about. It's not who is the current president in power and whether we trust them enough to manage this debt. The question is the accountability of how the debt is used must be scrutinized. There must be transparency. There must be more sharp focus on that, which is what Gen Z, the question should be, yes, we already have a debt problem. We know that. The question is going forward into the future. How are we going to use the intellectual power of all these people who are now sharply focused on this to make sure that what happened in the past is not repeated? I'm not seeing solutions being offered. And I'm not saying that I'm the smartest man in the room, but the discussion that we need to have is we've identified the problem. A number of solutions have been proposed which haven't worked. We need to go back to the drawing table and start asking, okay, we know this is a problem. These were the proposed solutions. They didn't work. How do we solve it? Go back to the issue of corruption. Okay? Very strict, very cumbersome procurement laws. They have not worked. So what next? I'm proposing put every tender on the internet so everybody can see it. Other than defense items, there's no reason why everything cannot be on the internet so everybody can see. So the question will be, why is this parastatal buying this at such and such a price? That will be question number one. Question number two, is this really necessary? So there is no way a managing director will put on the internet his procurement attempts to procure things that are not necessary, that are ridiculously expensive. It's one way of reducing it. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm saying the time has come where we need to have a discussion on solutions, not a discussion on the problems that we already know exist. That's my thinking. Should there be accountability for where this money went? Absolutely.
100%.
Okay. And those who have stolen our money should be held to account. Now, the challenge we have in Kenya, and this is the truth, if you steal 10 million shillings, you go to jail.
Well,
if you steal a billion shillings, you don't go to jail because now there's enough money to share with the prosecutors, with the judges, with
even less than that.
With
if
everything.
You steal a chicken, you are on bail for 10 million shillings. You steal kilos of meat, you're on bail for 10 million shillings. But you steal billions of shillings and you're walking around the street. You can even be re-elected.
Correct.
Suleiman, I want to ask you this question. You know why?
Yes.
There's been discussion from, I read it is from religious leaders that the president should not appoint politicians. I disagree with them completely. Not just slightly, completely. You are a businessman. You are also a politician. Okay? If you are appointed to the cabinet, first of all, would you accept it? And if you, I know I'm getting it's personal, but anyway, you and I are friends, so I can ask you personal questions. And if you accepted it, how would we merge and how would we balance this? I say this because we have a country where we have people who claim to be millionaires, some billionaires, and they don't have any business, any industry that supports the wealth they have.
You know, CT, this is a very difficult question you've asked. It goes back to the same question that the nation is asking today. Should the opposition work with the government at this point in time? And there are two debates on this. Kalonzo, my good friend, has absolutely refused. He says, no, on a point of principle, I cannot. That's his point of principle.
And what principle is this?
That William Ruto should carry his own cross, and it's not our job to go and absolve him of his sins.
His mess.
Yes, and the minute you join him, you are basically helping him bear the cross of
the mess he has created.
The mess that has
according to that narrative.
According to that narrative, I'm of a different view. Kenya is burning. And when a house is burning, you don't stop aside and say, I'm only a tenant. This is the problem of the landlord. I believe there is a need now for a government of national unity. And I know this is not a popular position with the Gen Z. But in times of crisis, there is a need for leadership. It would be irresponsible for the opposition to say, Apana, this is not our mess. It is our mess. Okay, and who started it? It didn't start with William Ruto. It just became worse in this administration. But it's time to go back in there and try and solve these problems, you know. And the issues that are remaining, we'll solve them in 2027. But for right now, we have to put out this fire.
The counter-argument that a lot of the movement protesters would say is that we want to have a government of national unity that is made up of individuals who have served in these positions historically or previously, coming to now solve problems in the present day that could not have been taken care of in the past.
We've had a lot of cabinet ministers who were completely useless, but we've also had a lot of cabinet ministers who are very effective and very competent. And perhaps it is time to bring them back and use the experience. Not every former cabinet secretary deserves to go back to parliament, to cabinet. And it also does not mean that everybody who was in previous governments should not come back again. We need experienced people to try and solve these problems here. So the question isn't whether they should come back on. The question is really, we must make sure that the right people are brought back.
Let's look at...
Or not only the right people are brought back, but also new competent people are brought in.
New competent people
in the
who are
private sector today, we have a lot of very, very competent people who can be brought in to help steer the ship.
Let's look at arms of government, service that are to deal with things like corruption. And that how far, look, I mean, here we are in a year where we've probably seen the greatest number of cases that were in courts of corruption dropped. I mean, easily in 2024, we've seen more cases dropped than the last number of years combined for lack of evidence, for this, that, or the other thing. And people could chalk it up to, well, okay, fine. You have a prosecutorial body that is, again, doing things at the whims of the executive. This is what is out there. How do you fight corruption? How do you fight some of these things if the very bodies that have been set up to do some of these things are, look, very blatantly, number one, killing its own citizens when we talk about what's happening with the protests? And also then making sure that folks who have been fingered in terms of corruption are being let off the hook. These are some of the things that are also being raised today. How?
Again, you are 100% right. And this is the reason why I brought this book. Why Nations Fail. And the central thesis of this book is one very simple thing. Don't change people, change institutions. We have the right institutions, but unfortunately, those institutions have been subverted, starting first with Parliament. The minute Parliament lost its capacity to create checks and balances, that institution was subverted. The minute you create an executive that is completely, totally, 100% dominated by one man, even that institution got subverted. And the process becomes endless. So our challenge as a nation is, how do we strengthen the institutions that we set up constitutionally and make them work again? That's why I'm repeating again, let's go back to transparency. Let us force this government and every successful government and every, successive government to a level of transparency that this country has never seen before. And that's why the Gen Z, with their capacity to utilize IT, play such a critical role. I'm going back to my politics in Mombasa, where I was challenging the youth. Don't stand up on a platform and start talking about corruption. We already know. What is the solution? The challenge to the Gen Z today, okay, you've started the revolution, you've taken it to a very good state position. So did Tahrir Square, the Egyptians. So did the Tunisians. So did the Yemenis. What is the end goal? How do we convert the gains that have been made into institutional changes that will change this country? I'm even throwing the challenge to the current president, that Your Excellency, he has an opportunity, a golden opportunity to change this country.
Do you think members of cabinet and those who sit in these positions should be paid less?
I think we're focusing on trivial issues.
No, I don't think it's trivial, because a lot of the wastage, and austerity issues and measures that we talk about stem from these very offices, which use huge amounts of money on a daily basis to do things that they have no business doing. And that's one of the very clear clarion calls from this movement, that there's wastage right at the office level.
The wastage is not in the salaries. The salaries, by industry standards, cabinet secretaries are not massively overpaid. I can tell you that. Okay. The issues is that government wastage is money being spent on things that are not productive for this country. When you send people on trips and you take 30 people and everybody is being paid a per diem of $1,000, and then you calculate the total cost of that trip and it adds up to $500,000, and then you wonder, wait a minute, what did we benefit out of this $500,000 spent sending 20 people to New York? Okay, that same $500,000, had it been spent by this government or by any government building water pans, mashinani,
for drought areas,
okay, that same money being used more productively is of value to us. CT, you are talking about Krugman. Was a very interesting economist. The difference between the individual household and government is that when the household is broke, when Mzee is broke, he starts reducing expenses. Cut down on expenses. Government, by its very nature, cannot afford to stop spending because that's what drives the economy. It's a very interesting.
It's extremely interesting because the theories of austerity, as he states repeatedly, all the research that has been done, the austerity theory has fallen flat on its face.
Correct.
Yes.
So the issue here is not government to stop spending. Government, by its very nature, has to spend because it's the biggest employer, it's the biggest source of money in the country. The day government stops spending, this country will start to grind to a halt.
It's got to change the character of its spending.
It's got to change the character of its spending and make sure that our money is spent and is used on things that will add value to our country.
Well, Shima, I think that a lot of that we see are symptoms. When we see the eruptions here and there, where we see the things that have been happening, these are symptoms of a very, very big problem. And I keep giving the example that when a surgeon finds a cancer, it doesn't have a debate about, okay, well, let's take a little bit of this cancer out and let's see what happens. No, it's radical in nature. It cuts out the entire thing and then says, now, let's start to build the cells so that this body can start to heal. Is it not time for radical surgery in Kenya?
That's exactly what I was saying. That it is now an opportunity for this country to reinvent itself. Crisis is opportunity. Now, let's come back to your cabinet secretaries. You see, we want a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Correct? But the cabinet is appointed by one man.
Right.
I am proposing a slight change in the way things are done. Okay, you appoint the cabinet secretary. You're the president. You came in with a set of policies and we agree to that. But let's now tweak the system a little bit. Every cabinet secretary must come out with 5 key deliverables that are open and are public. I will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In addition to running his ministry.
Yeah.
That's something that, but we now need to hold him accountable to those 5 deliverables. Him as the individual.
Across board.
But then I want an advisory board from that industry which will sit and debate with the cabinet secretary and say, out of those 5 priorities, we agree with 3, but change these 2. Because we've seen government many times come up with initiatives that industry rejects.
Yeah.
So if it is in the health, Minister of Health, he needs to come up with, these are the 5 deliverables that I will do in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
There needs to be a board appointed from the industry that is an advisory board. This advisory board has 2 roles. Number 1, to make sure that this cabinet secretary stays true to the 5 priorities that we want as a nation, and that he's spending that money that he's supposed to spend properly, and should also advise the government or the president, Your Excellency,
this is the way to go.
This cabinet secretary of yours, ni maziwa lala. He has to go.
It's interesting, and we need to see what's going to happen, but I mean, our time has run out. Suleiman Shabal, Member of Parliament, East Africa Legislative Assembly, thank you for being here this morning as we look into some of these matters, which will definitely come to a head in a very short time. Always a pleasure to have you here every day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As a conclusion, I am very optimistic about the future of our country.
Yeah.
Okay. The challenges that we are going through are actually good for the country. Gen Z has done this country proud, but we need to build on what has been achieved and look forward to changing our institutions rather than focusing on individuals. That's my parting message. I remain forever optimistic about our country.
Good way to end it. It's 1 minute after 8.
Middle East countries for job opportunities for Kenyans. Labour and Skills Development Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime said the Labour bilateral targets create employment opportunities for skilled Kenyans abroad.
A very young population. We have an aging population in Europe. In fact, some of them have reached out to us, because they realize in Kenya we have very, very skilled young people, and by the way, also very disciplined. And that is the kind of brand that we are marketing out there. So we're here in Kisumu today, and tomorrow we will be going also to other towns. We will be going to Mandera very soon, the far-flung areas, areas that are unreached, so that we can encourage these young people that there is hope. They must have faith that.
Mwadime said the government will soon sign a bilateral agreement with Germany, which will create a system for skilled workers to move between the countries.
Why we decided to carry out a skills inventory is basically because of the complaints we're receiving, particularly from entrepreneurs within the country, not so much outside, although this is also for the benefit of, the young people will be migrating abroad. We wanted to know the kind of skills that they have so that we see where there is a skills gap that will inform change of curriculum. So that we prepare our young people for the labor market. It's futile really for one to spend 4 years at university or TVET, and then after that you are unable to secure employment. So that is the object.
IPOA has threatened court action against top police bosses, claiming they're stonewalling its efforts to oversight police management of the protests. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has said its work is frustrated amid public criticism. It is sitting on its hands as policing of protests gets out of hand. They accuse the police of refusal to avail deployment schedules, arms registers, records of their usage, and ignoring summons it's issued. Commissioner Joseph Oiganjo said they are mulling seeking warrants of arrest against some senior commanders and officers whom he said are blocking their access to crucial documents. He also claimed the commission is also being frustrated by some public hospitals that are refusing to avail medical records for injuries they believe were sustained during the protests. And finally, there is division among Meru MCAs over the motion that's been tabled to impeach Governor Kawira Mwangaza for the third time since she came into office in 2022, while others support the motion tabled by Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament, that is Zipporah Kinya. Some term the move as a political witch hunt.
Hii mswada imekuja juu ya kura ya 2027. Kuna watu bando hawajakubali governor ni mama, na kuna watu bando wanataka governor atoke na through impeachment ndiye asiweze kusimama kiti 2027.
Ni kweli tumekuwa na embarrassment, lakini sisi wenye wanasupport wa governor tumejiondoa kabisa kwa hiyo maneno na hatutakubali hiyo maneno iweze kuendelea.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's a land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, so where are we this morning? At a few minutes after 8 o'clock, traffic's busy in the city. We still see some traffic coming off of Magadi Road today as it connects with Langata Road, and that looks like it's going to be busy for a while. Also, let's take a look quickly at what's happening on the Thika Superhighway. We're not dealing with too much of an issue, except when you just get past Survey out towards Pangani at the underpass, and there's some traffic then on Wangari Maathai as you touch on what's going towards Museum and then out towards Parklands. I think we're fine coming off of the Eastern Bypass. Doesn't look too bad. Jogo Road is busy as usual. Landis Road already bumper to bumper through towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. But I think that's the worst of what we're dealing with this morning. Want to keep an eye on things and see what happens. If you're coming off of Ngong Road, I think you're fine. Some traffic that was just heavy on Kingara Road as you get out towards James Gishuru, and that looks like it might continue for a while. Friday morning, it's still chilly and it's gonna be pretty dark still out. There's a lot of westerly directional traffic heading out past Westlands, so we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens through the country later on. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on X hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
And it is a few minutes after 8 o'clock, 9 minutes past 8 into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. The Situation Room continues and coming off with conversations that matter and conversations that are important when it comes to how a country is being run and the different things that happen that we ought to always be involved in setting the agenda for the nation every morning. Wherever you're tuned around on our live streams on YouTube, Facebook, X and TikTok, the conversation continues this hour, and we'll be having an insurance conversation this morning, and our guest this hour is the CEO of Britam Asset Managers, and that is Barack Obasa. He's here with us this morning. Barack, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning, and it's good to have you here as we look into a number of issues that we'll be discussing. Earning It's a good thing when we hear about earning because it's going to put some money in the pocket, right? Yeah. And Britam well placed to show us how that can all come together and how that can happen. But before you start giving to us, how about we give to you? And the way in which we welcome you into the Situation Room this morning is CT goes around the continent and he gleans proverbs from different African countries. And he's gone to a very interesting country this week. And I'll let him tell you about that. And when he gives us the proverb, then you can tell us what it means to you and how you would interpret it. That sound good? Yeah, good. Okay.
Well, our proverbs for this week come from the island republic of Cabo Verde, otherwise known as Cape Verde, formerly Portuguese colony. It's an interesting country. We say it's in the western region of Africa, yet it's in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And it consists of 10 volcanic islands. But the unique thing that I found interesting about this country is one of the few countries in the world whose population in the diaspora is more than the population of those in the country.
Wow.
In this instance, those in the diaspora are almost twice the population of those in the country.
Unique.
It's very, very, very unique. But it's not the only unique country. Other countries like Ireland and the Seychelles also share those qualities. Okay. Now the proverb. In new surroundings, the hen will walk on one leg.
I think, what would that mean? It's when you're in an unfamiliar place, you'll be more cautious and careful.
Thank you. You've interpreted it simply and accurately. Yes, it is. When you're in a place that you're not familiar with, you want to be cautious.
Yeah.
Yes. It's important to be cautious.
1,000 points. Do with them with whatever you wish. Put them in a money market fund and see how they grow.
Just
because you interpreted that, fantastic.
Yeah.
So then I guess that gives us an inroad into what we're talking about this morning, and in terms of how you can actually make money grow for you in a fund. So just introduce us again to Britam Asset Managers, and what is it that you do? It's such a, when we hear Britam Asset Managers, it just sounds like, a very niche, place where it's only reserved for certain people who do certain things, who trade on the international market. Please reintroduce us.
Thank you very much. I mean, Britam Asset Managers is part of the Britam Group. So Britam Group has been in existence in Kenya for the last 65 years. And currently in 7 African countries and quickly expanding very fast in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we want to specialize in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Central Africa, towards Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and we'll expand more as we go along. And it has 4 broad arms. One for life insurance, the other one for short-term insurance, insuring your car, house. The other one is micro-insurance that basically goes to the bottom of the pyramid. And then the company that I lead, which is Britam Asset Managers. So our job is basically to manage wealth, to manage investments, advise on wealth, and grow your wealth. We've been in existence for the last 20 years as the asset management arm of the group.
Isn't it wonderful? Because to manage wealth, it must exist.
But when we hear wealth, we think, well, you must have it.
So I'm glad to hear that for you to have been here for 20 years and doing this, then it means this country actually has wealth. Doesn't it?
Indeed.
Yes.
Also, there's a demarcated, areas, of course, that we'd love to go into. But then, can we just do a little bit of a definition? Because when we hear wealth, it's kind of a scary thing. Because folks are like, okay, well, if they're only managing wealth, then I've got no business here, right? So when we talk about wealth, what exactly are we talking about, Barack?
For me, wealth starts as a mindset. Number one, for me, once you have the right mindset, then that's wealth. Now, from there, now you can accumulate what now you will call at the end of it wealth. But once you start with the habit and the mindset, then
for me, you can define that as wealth. And I say investment is for everybody. I mean, whatever little you get, that's what becomes even wealth. But as I said, the first thing is you have to just have the right mindset. Even somebody with 100 million and you with your 500,000, you can be even more. You can seem even more wealthier than that person, because then your mindset gives you sustainability in terms of what you can become. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you assist individuals? With ideas of investment? How does that whole process play out?
Yeah. Number one, we talk to the public a lot, and one of the things that we tell people is that whatever you earn, whatever you earn, even if you earn 500 shillings, you can start from there. All you need to do is put aside something, for example, and start your journey to grow your wealth. We also do give financial advisory, which means even before you start earning anything, we can exchange ideas on what best you can do to start now earning. And then from there, become more tangible in terms of what you can do with that money. Because what we've found is that if you start early with the little that you have, then the chances of you growing wealthier increase exponentially. And one of the things that we've been doing is we have a lot of outreach outside there. So even before you start earning your first coin, then we can give you ideas on what you can do. As you know, like I said, we also have a wing of us that does micro business, micro insurance and all that. So that is part of it. That is part of contributing for you to start the wealth journey.
Okay. So practically, I have 500 shillings. Barack, what am I doing with 500 shillings that is going to take me to the journey whereby I'm growing my wealth? How does that translate?
So it is very easy. For example, we can sit down with you. We do have financial advisors. I think the largest financial advisory network in the country, and also business development staff that we have in Britam throughout the country. And by the way, we have our digital tools that are very user-friendly, very interactive by themselves. So what we do is that if you have 500 shillings, we have products that fit that very perfectly. From the word go, you can start investing even with 100 shillings, leave alone 500 shillings. We do allow that, and we did that just to bring the inclusivity, financial inclusivity, in the whole investment ecosystem. So with even 500 shillings, if you go, even if you don't have a smartphone, you can just use your USSD and be able to start investing. So we've gone as low as that and said, it's okay. We have other people, the Gen Zs, who like using our digital tools, and they will use our apps, they will use all our WhatsApp chatbots. But for us, all you need to go is *778# and you start your investment journey with as low as you can.
Okay. So this money, and I like this 500 shillings because then we can break it down for folks to really understand. So with this money, how will I then be able to meet my goal? So I've put 500 shillings here and I want to grow it. I'm going somewhere. I want to buy a house, a property. I want to buy a car. I want to, save for, holiday, whatever. How then does that happen? And how would then you advise to say this is what you do with it to meet your goal?
So one of the things that we do, because we do a lot of investment advice, so we'll sit down and ask you, what is your goal? What do you want to do with your money in X number of years? So, and we'll set a goal, and what exactly are you looking to buy? What kind of car are you looking to buy? You have to start from there. What do you want to buy? Then we'll tell you, if you want to buy XYZ, and this is the money you want to put, then you have to take this number of initiatives, habitual saving. Of course, the other side, we can tell you then you need to do a bit of hustle here to increase this level of saving for you to reach that goal. Because we believe once you anchor your goal in doing something, most of the time we've seen that you achieve, and we have quite a number, numerous examples that we have seen of clients who have come to us, and after 5 or 3 years, they have been able to meet their goal. Even they have bought property. They have been able to develop property. So, like Kenyans, we like our plots, and you can say within 3 years, I've bought my plot. After 2 or so years, I've been able to save to develop that property. If I'm a young man and I want a car, I want a Subaru, then how do you start? So which Subaru do you want? Okay, let's begin the journey.
So you go to the nitty-gritty actually and say,
actually go, this is what I want. And even me, practically, I have done that. I've seen that. I've grown in the investment industry, and I've seen mistakes that I've done myself while in the investment journey. And I think with that, I can be able to tell quite a lot of people that anything that I've said I want to achieve, so long as I anchor it into a goal, and I say, by the way, I want to get this type of asset. I've almost always gotten what I want in that sense, because I've just anchored my mind there, and my habits have built from that, and I achieve it almost spot on. And I've seen quite a number of people.
Considering that a very large segment of our population are in what we call the informal sector. So they do earn a living, and that's why the sector exists. But one can't say it is steady. It exists, but it's this today, it's that tomorrow, and it balances off somewhere. Now, for this individual who probably even earns less than that and subsists on something like 8 to 10,000 shillings, let me lower it, 6 to 10,000 shillings a month. This individual will want the same thing as somebody who earns 50 to 100,000 shillings. So how does such an individual move to the point where they are now able to actually have more than they actually have?
So one of the things that I will say, one of the principles that we say, whatever you want, just fixate on 10 to 20%. So even if I'm selling in the market and I earn my 500 or 600 shillings per day, just take that 60 shillings or 120 and keep it aside. And I'm saying that there will be good times and there will be bad times. So the most important thing is that when things are very bad, and maybe it is a certain time of the month that you are not able to earn at your peak, then you can be able to draw down on some of those savings. So once you keep your level minimum of what you think you should be saving every day, then that can give you a bit of a buffer. So number two, one of the things that we've seen, and we've seen it in the financial inclusion environment that we started with certain banks actually targeting certain parts which were called unbanked. And what we saw is that some of those people who started at that micro level are now millionaires. And number one was saving. Number two is using part of your savings to actually acquire credit and grow your business. And from there, you are able to even earn more income and save. So that's a very tried and tested way. But even without that, I always say saving and investment is very habitual. So the moment you get the habit of setting aside whatever amount that you earn, then you are home and dry. You will be better than somebody who is earning $1 million and maybe not having a budget on how to spend it. And we've seen quite a number of those examples after you've left your job, active job, and you are having a very good job, then you are not doing so well.
You know, I mentioned this. If I look at, say, for instance, the percentage of people who in this country who one could argue, say, have sought or are insured or have an interest, not an interest, who are in the money market, it is a very small percentage, and it's way below even 5%. Okay, now, and yet they're the majority.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at the numbers, just the sheer numbers, all right, and I'm thinking, wildly here, many of these individuals live in a situation that we refer to as hand to mouth.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
But yet you're saying, and I actually agree with you in principle, that even if you're living from hand to mouth, you can find a way of putting aside money. But sometimes one needs a helping hand. Why do I ask this? If you have a very large segment of people who are not able to partake of an offering such as the one that you had, and yet the potential is always there.
Yeah.
What does your industry, what does Britam do in terms of just the thought process of getting to a point where you can include these people? Because as I say, the sheer numbers.
Yeah. So, I mean, the interesting thing is that, yes, for example, the money market fund and our industry, currently, if you look at that section of the industry, it's not just about 200 billion now. But remember, what do we have in the banking industry? 6 trillion. 6 trillion in deposits, for example. So it just tells you the capacity. It tells you the capacity. One is that you will find that most of those deposits earn nothing. So a lot of people don't realize that when sometimes if you are not discerning enough, for example, and you put money in a bank account, most of the time it is zero. But let money work for you. So I'm saying, Kenyans, let's go to the next level. And that's what we've been doing. We're saying, don't let your money sit idle in your bank account earning zero. Or under the mattress. Just go to M-Pesa or wherever and put your money in Britam, and you should be able to start earning.
How soon?
Immediately. Even now, if I put *778, I'll start earning immediately.
How does that work? It sounds like magic. How does that work exactly? You put in money, you start earning today. Could you explain some of the mechanics of how that works?
Yeah, so what happens, every day we give a rate, or what we call a yield, daily yield. So currently we are giving an annual yield of about 13.5. So you can imagine you earning 0%. And most of us, we are busy, we are here, here the whole day, we are working, we earn our income, but we don't take care of it, yet there's so much potential. For example, in our money market fund, all you need to do is go to *778, it will give you prompts, and from there you should be able to, it will give you steps, and you should be able to invest immediately. And from there you'll be able to have your money working for you. Secondly, even in our apps, so we have apps for those, like I always say, most of our apps are used by our Gen Zs. People probably my age like our financial advisors, but we have our Britam app, and most importantly our WhatsApp chatbot. So using AI, you are able to go to WhatsApp chatbot immediately and invest.
So then, that is an immediate thing that you put in money today via M-Pesa. You said as little as 100 shillings, you can do the business and start. So that's immediate. And then you also use some other terms like short term. And then you also talk about long term. What's the difference between all of that? And who would you advise to go short term and who should go long term?
So what I will say is short-term investments, basically you want to keep your money for a short while. You do not want the volatility of the market. You want to probably have a wedding in 6 months. So you want to put your money, say, in a product like a money market fund, because the volatility and risk is much lower. So short-term, we put anything between 1 and 2 years. And long term, anything between 2 and maybe 15 years.
So are you seeing the same kind of rates in terms of return on investment, whether it is short term or whether it is long term? Are you seeing the same numbers, or do those things now fluctuate depending on the periods that you have?
So obviously in terms of the principle of investing, the curve is always upward sloping, if I call it. So the longer the time, the longer you should be able to earn. The higher you should be able to earn. So for example, a money market fund, you'll find that the rate of return is slightly lower than what we call our smart yield fund. So our smart yield fund will probably give you close to about 14%, and our money market fund will probably give you about currently at about currently we are giving 13.5.
Okay.
Per annum.
Before we go to break, break it down for us. Exactly what a money market fund is. I mean, again, it sounds nice. We see it in the financial papers, and we don't. What is a money market fund?
So a money market fund is a short-term investment vehicle that basically invests in short-term investments, and that is meant to preserve your capital. The main objective of that is capital preservation. So it is a very, very safe type of investment vehicle, investment fund, that basically the underlying investments are short-term and curated and selected well to ensure that you preserve your capital and you're able and minimize the fluctuations in the fund. So it is a fund that that is very suitable for almost everybody, and especially for those who are starting their investment journey.
And it's not fixed.
And it has no, this is something that you can invest today and after 2 days get your money back. Yeah, it's as good as a bank account, but a bank account that is earning you income. That is the trick about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue into some of these investing. What you can actually do with your money in the Britam money market funds and other investment options. Barack Obasa is the CEO of Britam Asset Managers, and he's here with us unlocking some of these things this morning. We're going to take a break and see what's happening with weather and traffic. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hi, nataka kuona doc. My child is unwell.
Sure. Will you be paying cash or insurance?
Cash.
That will be 1,000 bob for registration and 2,500 for consultation.
Okay, give me a moment. Wow, I don't think I have enough. Bro, si sort me na 1K. Nimepeleka mtoi hosi na niko short.
Pole sana. Mtoi ni msiko wapi?
Nitakushow baadaye. Niaje hiyo 1K.
Aki sina kitu misai. Hujawahi consider health insurance?
I've been planning to, but finances zimekuwa tight. Don't wait for the unexpected. With Jubilee Health Insurance, we mind your health for you. And you can rest assured knowing that you're covered for all life's twists and turns. From doctor visits to emergency treatments, chronic conditions, and even wellness checkups for your family, parents, and employees. Jubilee Health Insurance has you covered, and to top it up, they offer budget-friendly options to suit your pocket. To get covered, visit www.jubileeinsurance.co.ke or text the word HEALTH to 40643 today. Jubilee Health Insurance, your #1 choice for all health insurance solutions. Live free.
Baba boy, gas imeisha, shopping imeisha, na ujue tokens bado zinalia.
Msupa, nipe mbao na 20 minutes.
Mbao, like 20 bob. 20 minutes, kwani kuna nini? Na ujue mimi nataka kupika haki.
Jaber, kwani ujui dakika mamilini every 20 minutes, halafu wanapea na 10 million every 20 minutes, na hadi kuna 3 millionaires every hour.
Daka mamili virahisi. Uko na nafasi 3 ya kuwa millionaire kila hour. Usipitwe, cheza daka, ushike mita yako sasa. Chagua nambari zako 4 za bahati and win up to 10 million every 20 minutes. Nenda kwenye paybill 440440. Account, Spice, amount. Cheza na shilingi 20 hadi shilingi 2,000 na ushinde mamilioni. Daka mita, kuwa bingwa.
The weather with SpiceFM.
13 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 20 and we'll see highs of 23 in a sunny Nakuru at 15, 14 and sunny in Nyeri, going to highs of 19, and it's 15 and sunny in Eldoret. We'll see highs of 23. Mombasa is sunny at 24, going to highs of 29, and at 26 it's sunny in Malindi, going to highs of 28. Looking into a sunny Kisumu at 22, we'll see highs of 28, while we'll also see highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega at 19. Kampala is mostly sunny at 20, where we'll see see highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam, with current conditions at 23 and sunny. It's 10 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, going to highs of 22, and we'll see highs of 29 in a sunny Mogadishu at 26, 14 and sunny in Addis Ababa with highs of 21. Lagos is cloudy at 26, and we'll see highs of 28 through Friday, and at 20 it's sunny in Kinshasa, going to highs of 30.
Chilled Spice.
All right, Friday morning is not too crazy. Most parts of the city this morning. Let's take a quick look at what's going on the Thika Superhighway. That was the busiest about 30 minutes ago. And we're seeing just a little bit of left or coming in through towards that Pangani underpass. That stretch will do you fine as you come off of it and then get towards Muranga Road and then through towards the Globe Cinema roundabout. That's not looking too bad. Outer Ring is also flowing pretty freely. Just some traffic coming off of the Eastern Bypass going towards North Airport Road, Cabanas, then touching on Mombasa Road. I think we'll be all right. What's this? This is some traffic then going out towards Uhuru Highway, coming off of the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. But we'll deal with that in no time whatsoever. You should be where you're going. It's also been a little bit cray coming off Ngong Road as you touch on Kingara Road and then out towards James Gishuru. But I think we'll be fine with that as we get through it. Okay, let's see what's happening as we come out of traffic hour in about an hour from now. But it looks like Friday morning will not be too crazy. Let's talk in the meantime. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 28 minutes to the top of the hour, rather 24 minutes to the top of the hour, Barack Obatsa is the CEO of Britam Asset Managers, and we're talking about investing, money market funds. So you paved the way for us to understand what that's about and let us know that this is what you can actually do with your money. As we go into that, questions of, okay, is there some place, some secret place where nobody knows about, where this money is taken and it's then grown on trees and then it's brought back? Folks want to know, okay, in which orbit does my 500 shillings go? Yeah. Where is it going exactly that you're able to then give me back this interest? What magic do you wield?
Yeah. So, what I can say, there's not much magic. I mean, we are professional investment managers. So we are regulated by the Capital Markets Authority on managing private wealth and retail funds. And we have set areas that we can invest. And we invest in bonds, especially, government bonds. We do invest in corporate bonds. We do invest in commercial paper, but carefully selected, well calibrated, especially on the money market fund, which is supposed to be a very, very safe fund.
Yeah.
Our smart yield as well. That one, we take slightly longer instruments, and that's why we're able to give you a much higher return. Plus, we always say that it is for those ones who want to invest for a slightly longer period. So if you don't want to access your money in 2 to 3 years, or your goal is 2 to 3 years, invest in our smart yield fund. It will give you more, and it is suitable for those ones who want to invest for a slightly longer period.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned when we're talking about money market fund, you talked about smart yield.
Yeah.
And its high interest rates. What is this smart yield, and what's the difference between that and the other short-term fund that you spoke of?
Yeah, so a money market fund is meant for short-term investing. It's basically an alternative to a bank deposit.
Okay.
So if you go to a bank, they will usually offer you a call deposit. And that is an alternative, but or basically a call deposit or sometimes a current account. But the only difference is that I pay you interest, and very decent interest for that matter. A smart yield is our longer term investment vehicle, especially once now you've gotten used to not that you cannot invest from the word go if you want, we just allow you, but we normally prefer it for people who have experienced investments a little bit. And we say that fund is meant for people. If you're saying you want to buy a car in 3 years, I'll tell you go to the smart yield because it gives you a much higher return. You're a bit patient. It has, and the other thing is a slightly higher risk because, like I said, the higher the return, the slightly higher risk that you carry.
What is this slightly higher risk?
Yeah. So in terms of, there could be a bit of fluctuations, but rarely. We've not seen them. But we have a responsibility to tell our clients that it could, but it doesn't normally have. Since we started it, it's been very stable. We've not had those fluctuations. But in terms of the risk spectrum, it is described as slightly risky, slightly. And I'm not saying that you can lose your money. We have not. We've been managing money for the last 20 years and we've been fairly okay with that. But because it's slightly longer, just like if you buy a government instrument, a 10-year bond, in normal circumstances is supposed to earn you higher because of time. Uncertainty of time. Things happen over time. So it's this exact same principle. Not that you are likely to lose, but things happen over time. So that's why a government bond of 20 years will give you more than maybe a government bond of the same government bond of 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is a return on investment guaranteed? Once you put your money in, like you said, I think you said you take as little as 100 shillings, or what is the minimum amount that you would take for any kind of investment? What's the minimum?
So for a money market, we can take as low as 100 shillings, and we did just this for inclusion. It used to be much higher. Sure. Remember, we used to have it much higher, but we said let us be a little bit more inclusive, and this is very deliberate from ourselves. We said. On one side, we are doing microinsurance. So what we realize is that those particular clients also have investment needs, because when we do advise our clients, we go on a very holistic basis. So we assess your needs, what your requirements are, and that's why we said it will be a contradiction for us to sell microinsurance. We go to Mama Mboga and say, you know what, you need to insure X, Y, Z.
Right.
And then at the other point, we tell him, no, for you to invest, you need 1 million shillings. So that didn't make sense to us, because we want everybody to be included.
Okay.
So that is why one of the reasons we also transitioned and said, you know what, let us lower this balance so that everybody is included and we give everybody a bouquet. Obviously, at the same time, we also manage discretionary mandates. So for people who understand investments even more, I want to invest in Tesla. We can do that. We can construct your portfolio as much as you like from whatever angle you want. So all we need to tell you, this is the risk that you think we can take given what information you've given us. But you also have to be willing. There are some people, you'll tell them this is the kind of risk that you should be able to afford, but they tell you I can afford more. Maybe I have more. I can afford to lose a little bit, or I can afford fluctuations. So we also do bespoke investment solutions.
Okay. So there's a guarantee on your return. There's a guarantee on the return of your investment that at the very least you will get something, because you've said it goes into different kinds of markets, right? Depending on where you are, commercial paper, you talk about bonds and things like this. But are people going in with 100 shillings or with 1 million shillings with a guarantee on their investment after the term?
In fact, in our products, our capital market regulations do not allow us to offer a guarantee.
Okay.
So by law, we are not allowed. So we can't guarantee. By definition, we can't guarantee. All we say is that we know we'll give you a decent return. We have been at it for a very long time. Britam is a very stable company, a highly respected brand. I think in terms of brands in Kenya, we are number 3 across all types of companies, not just financial services. Among insurance companies, we are number 1, and this is something that was done by an external independent party that basically disseminates that. So we can say because of our stability, we are able to assure clients that your money is very, very safe.
Okay. So, just with these different elements, and you said, so I start and I say today, I have a certain amount of money and I've seen that this makes sense, this makes sense, and I want to put it somewhere. How do I start? I pick up the phone, I speak to somebody on the end of the phone. We talked about star 778 hash. What do I do? I'm starting out right now.
Yeah.
How do I go about it?
So there are several ways. Number one, like I mentioned, Britam has almost 3,000 financial advisors spread throughout the country with over 25 branches. So the easiest for maybe people of my age or older, they will want human interactions. So if you go to our branches, you'll be served from there. They will onboard you. You'll open your account instantly and you'll start. Our financial advisors are spread throughout the country. Number two, if you say smart 2778 SMS, somebody will call you. So that let the cost be ours to call you back. So you do not need to. Number three is basically using our WhatsApp chatbot. So we call it Bella. So nice. 0705 100 100. So if you just go to Bella and interact with it, immediately you start your investment journey from that perspective, and even invest instantly using your WhatsApp. Just your WhatsApp.
Just WhatsApp.
The other is my Britam app. So we have an app for those ones who like apps, and they will be the whole journey, and you'll be able to invest from there. My Britam app or my Britam portal as well. And then we have our website. So if you go to Save and Invest, you'll be able to invest almost instantly. And of course, the most popular, like I said, we are very inclusive people. And if you go to star 778 hash, even with your Mulika Mwizi phone, you should be able to start investing. So even my mother in the village can be able to invest, because I know he has a smartphone that he cannot operate. So he prefers the Mulika Mwizi. So she can be able to start her investment journey from deep in the village, wherever you are.
Is that information available for folks who are, again, like you're saying, deep in the village as an example, or maybe not, clicked into this ecosystem where we're hearing all these things all the time, but do have an extra coin that they want to be able to put away for tomorrow? Is that information available for them?
I mean, in the villages, we do a lot of interactions, maybe with local radios and all that, just to bring them up to speed. We do quite a lot of activations in those particular areas, in commercial centers across the country. But more importantly, like I said, if they put just SMS to 778, we'll call them back. So on our social media pages, Instagram, our X, our X accounts, they'll be able to get that. We have LinkedIn pages, so that information is available. But of course, like I say, that now is available for the more urban population.
There is a population. I'm going back to where I started off before, looking at this group that previously was unbanked, but I'm going to take it further back. When looking into the future is often represented by the youthful population that we have. Now, these products, listening to them, I know they are good. I know that if one develops or has the discipline, they can serve one extremely well. But how then do you capture this population? Some haven't even gotten a job, some haven't even finished school. How do you get them into This zone where they think and realize that this is something I can do. And this is something that will help me, because someone starts, let's say, at the age of 21.
Yeah.
By the time they're 30, they will be doing extremely well.
Yeah.
By the time they're 40, they'll be doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Yes. And so forth.
Yeah.
Because if they stay alive, they will get to those ages.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does your organization do to ensure that their future is also embedded in this population that represents the future?
So one of the things that we do, of course, we engage at tertiary college, financial literacy. So we do a lot of financial literacy education at before you step out. Before you get your first job, before you finish, you'll have known what we do. So we engage in a lot of financial literacy.
Explain how you do it.
So we go to universities and we talking to the authorities there, and we engage the students there, either physically, but now they also like digitally. So we do a lot of webinars for now. Of course, the digitally aware. It is easier now. We do not have to physically go to all these institutions. So we do a lot of financial literacy. So to educate them from the word go. And the other thing that we also do, one of the programs we've started also is that for example, a micro insurance, we can allow them to be some sort of agents to be able now to propagate the information to their peers. Because one of the things that we also realized is that, which is very positive, peer pressure that is very positive. And one remarkable thing I've seen is that in Nairobi now, there's a lot of peer pressure for young people to invest. So they belong in groups and they invest together and they are very disciplined. Yeah. And it's almost like chamas for the young people.
Right.
I found that very interesting, that these people you are seeing sometimes now, we are seeing them, some of them in the streets and all that. They are very organized, even financially. And you'll be very amazed. They have their own chamas. They have their own chamas and they organize themselves. Everybody saves whatever he gets. And if you run into a problem, they go into an mchanga. If your mom is sick, if you are bereaved, if anything you need. So they do not want to dip into this investment. So they have done it very well. And they will come together and give you the money, put the money together like a harambe in mchanga, and give you the money and tell you, please don't touch the money that is here. Yeah. So I found that a very organized way, and it's done by peer pressure. Are you not investing? And those are the kind of networks that we have actually tapped into.
Sure.
And they're actually investing with us. We have a lot of those group of young men and women who have actually come to us. Young people, completely young people. And the good thing is that we have tools for them.
That's very interesting, Barack, because now think of years ago when we started to hear about, and then the investment and insurance market actually started to build. And it was very brick and mortar. Put your money, we grow it, we give it back to you, end of story. But from what I'm hearing that you're saying now, that we've evolved to a place whereby it's about a community or a culture that is being grown, where folks, we don't have to think twice or be convinced that an investment and keeping something away for the future or for a rainy day or towards a certain goal, you don't have to be convinced of that anymore, that it's a culture. Would you say now that it is a culture where folks are growing into an understanding whereby it's like second skin? It's something you should do or something that you should have, where you keep something for a rainy day, making your work maybe a little easier?
Yeah, actually they have made our work very easy, because one of the things they do is that one of the things that we imparted in them is that, you know what, guys, you can budget for your sherehe on Friday. Just keep a budget, but budget for savings as well. So there's a budget for saving and there's a budget for you, because they are young, so they want to be around, they want to go to Mombasa, wherever it is. Just like anybody else, budget for that, but budget for savings first. Once you've budgeted for savings, then you can budget for other things and your life will be very smooth. You have money for your rainy day, your precautionary savings. And this is very important now, especially when there are a lot of disruptions that are ongoing now. If you have those precautionary savings, you will start drawing into them. And quite honestly, even in the recent past, with a bit of uncertainty that has come, we've seen a lot of more people even saving. And you'll be surprised, like during the COVID times, that's when money market funds actually grew dramatically, because everybody was like, I don't know how uncertain the period is. So what we say is that even when we are giving financial advice, one of the things that we say is that you'll have your normal long-term savings.
Yes.
Then you have a bit of precautionary savings where you can draw in the event that your income levels go down, or maybe you are not very sure about what's going on tomorrow. So we saw that during COVID times quite a lot. So I like demarcating those savings into two. So emergency fund and your long-term saving on one side, where you will literally, this is long-term, I want to achieve my goal. This is if something goes wrong, then I can be able to dip in it.
What if it gets better? For example, the 100 shillings that we talk about today, because look, up and down, everywhere I've shaken everything, is only 100 shillings I can find, and I can start doing this thing, right?
Yeah.
Then there's a windfall later, or a better job, or increased income.
Yeah.
Is it fluid in the sense that I can now increase how much I'm putting into investment and saving?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is we have that person starting at 100, and we have other people at 200, 300 million in our products. So anytime that you find you have that windfall, you just invest. And one of the habits that I tell people, just having a standing order or a check-off from your salary. Don't see that money. Assume that it's an extra tax that you've gotten. And I mean, we
don't like that word about but okay.
Tax yourself. Yeah. So put on have a checkoff, and we do have arrangements with some organizations, employers, where we just have checkoffs and money comes, or a standing order, because it's not. Sometimes it's not. You have to be really mentally disciplined for you to be putting. When you get your salary, you just do a *778# and you place your money with us. That you can do too. I do that sometimes when I get a windfall myself. Then I can do that extra. But ordinarily, the best way of investing is just setting aside my 100,000, my 50,000, my 20,000, depending on what you get, your 1,000,000 shillings per month, and put it aside automatically without thinking. So mentally, even your mind tells you, by the way, this is my income and I can live on it.
Right.
I mean, spending is about your mental orientation. You always spend what you have. I mean, your mental state then puts you there. But at the same time, on the other side, you're accumulating money.
Yes.
That's the biggest trick. Yeah, because mentally you spend what you think you have. And that is the best way I look at saving and investing and budgeting and spending. Yeah.
For the person who is sitting here listening this morning and saying, okay, well, so what do I do? How do I start? How do I get into this? How do I need to be convinced a little bit more? Barak, what would you say to that individual today?
Yeah. So what I will say is that you can call us on 0705 100 100 and we'll talk. We'll send you a financial advisor to sit down with you and tell you, you know what, this is your age, XYZ, this is the risk that you can take, and maybe this is the fund that you can invest in. And of course, it's a conversation.
Right.
It's a conversation where you agree and say this is, in fact, what we are saying is we listen. For us, our mantra now is listening more.
Right.
Not telling the client.
Not telling what to do.
Because, not telling you what to do, but listening. And then giving you a perspective. Of course, the other one, like I mentioned, if you go to Smart 2778, we will call you back, an SMS. So it costs you almost nothing. We will call you back.
Okay.
We have our WhatsApp chatbot, very interactive. Bella, the same numbers, 0705 100 100, and you'll start the interaction journey, and it can also give you an opportunity for you to be called.
Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, what is there a difference between investing in the money market fund and buying shares? Is there a difference between the two?
Yeah. So there is a big difference. In investments, it's sometimes also good to have investments in a riskier pot. For example, shares. We say you can invest more in shares as you are young. But at the same time, what a money market fund does to you is that it is very important for that part of your, let me say, portfolio that you want to stabilize. Because as you can imagine, shares are very volatile sometimes. I mean, this share was 40 shillings, is 20 shillings now. You cannot use that type of saving to achieve your goal of buying a property or buying a car in 6 months, because you might find it half. So that's when you have those goals, transition to a money market fund, and you'll be able to get to that goal without losing some sleep. Shares have their place. They are okay and they are good, and we also do manage those for clients. But if you want to achieve some specific goals within a certain short period,
this is the way to go.
This is the way to go.
I mean, great insights and great knowledge this morning. Barack Obatsa, thank you for joining us and sharing that. I mean, no doubt, clearly, which direction we should be going. Barack Obatsa is the CEO of Britam Asset Managers, has been our guest this hour. Thank you for being here, and conversations continue. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Newswire, I'm Leah Ubaga. The National Police Service Commission, NPSC, has shortlisted 8 candidates for the positions of Deputy Inspector General of Police Service, DIG KPS, and Deputy Inspector General Administration Police Service, that is DIG APS. NPSC Chief Executive Officer Peter Lele said those shortlisted for the position of DIG KPS are George Adero Seda, Eliud Kipkoech, Tom Boya Odero, and Vincent Kinas Makoha. At the same time, the Commission shortlisted Gilbert Masengeli, Margaret Nyambura Karanja, James Mukoha Kamau, and Dr. Masood Mwinyi for the post of DIG APS. Interviews for those shortlisted candidates will take place on Monday from 9:30 a.m. Detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have ordered 8 remaining persons of interest linked to the embezzlement of public funds amounting to 450.14 million shillings to avail themselves before the Commission today. The Commission had already arrested 4 more individuals linked to the embezzlement at the State Department for Correctional Services during the financial years 2016-2017 and 2017-2018. The suspects are Sarah Kemunto, that is the Chief Finance Officer, Moses Juma, Principal Account, Jack Nyariango, Accountant, and Maureen Ndungwe, Director of one of the companies involved, who are in custody pending arraignment before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court this morning. The inquest into the death of Tekra Muigai is scheduled to proceed for a hearing today. Tekra died on May 2nd, 2020 at Nairobi Hospital. She allegedly fell down steep stairs at her house in Lamu. Her mother, Keroche Brewer CEO Tabitha Karanja, testified that she suspected Omar Lali could have had a hand in her daughter's death because she might have refused to continue financing him. She said it was Lali's greed that caused her daughter's death. The Nakuru senator was recalled in court after Lali made the application in a bid to cross-examine her regarding her testimony, saying when she testified he was absent and was also not represented. And finally, the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection is pursuing various bilateral agreements with Western European and Middle East countries for job opportunities for Kenyans. Labour and Skills Development Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime said the labour bilateral targets create employment opportunities for skilled Kenyans abroad.
A very young population, we have an aging population in Europe. In fact, some of them have reached out to us, because they realize in Kenya we have very, very skilled young people, and by the way, also very disciplined. And That is the kind of brand that we are marketing out there. So we're here in Kisumu today, and tomorrow we will be going also to other towns. We will be going to Mandera very soon, the far-flung areas, areas that are unreached, so that we can encourage these young people that there is hope. They must have faith that.
Mwadime said the government will soon sign a bilateral agreement with Germany, which will create a system for skilled workers to move between the countries.
Why we decided to carry out a skills inventory is basically because of the complaints we're receiving, particularly from entrepreneurs within the country, not so much outside, although this is also for the benefit of, the young people will be migrating abroad. We wanted to know the kind of skills that they have so that we see where there is a skills gap that will inform change of curriculum. So that we prepare our young people for the labor market. It's futile really for one to spend 4 years at university or TVET, and then after that you are unable to secure employment. So that is the object.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Spice FM, Nairobi.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, yenin der, ayu markati kadikta. This character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not because Adam messed up and he was told, "No, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good lady, how are you?
Traffic this morning, building in the city. We're looking at it coming in from the Thika Superhighway. Not too crazy, just a little bit of that. And let's also take a look at what's coming off of the Eastern Bypass. We're seeing some traffic. I think we can deal with this as well. Also then coming in from Gong Road, a little bit here and there. Also, whatever was bothering folks on Kingara Road seems to have reduced at this point significantly. We're not looking at too much. Friday morning has not been too much of a menace, so we're going to keep an eye on things and see how it all develops as we get closer to the end of traffic hour. Help us out here, guys. Whatever you see, what's going on where you are, let's talk and keep things moving this Friday morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
At 7 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday morning. Radio Garden is where you'll find our streams. Then you can click on Spice FM and you will be able to catch your episodes of The Situation Room as you do. We're also live streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, on X and on TikTok. And as those conversations continue this morning, we're getting into yet another one just as important. And as we look at some of those issues, we will be opening them up and saying, okay, so where are we? And one of the questions that remains, even as we go through things, is which way Kenya? This hour, we will be having a conversation with a friend of ours, and is not a stranger to the Situation Room. Reconstituting the cabinet is what we're looking at this morning. And our guest this hour, Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, has been here before and he's here again. Ahmed Nasir, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here this morning. A lot of things happening in the country at the moment. And we have seen from legal points of views, many things occurring, many things happening. And we're going to go into some of those conversations this morning. But I have a gift for you. And the gift has just walked in.
My good friend.
Yeah.
The evergreen.
The evergreen salt and pepper. So he has a proverb for you from Cabo Verde. And then you can tell us what it means. Bless you, City.
Today's proverb, eh?
Today's proverb, yes.
Okay.
It's from Cabo Verde City. Over.
Yes,
you have to go that far.
Well, if you see, one of the things about this continent is the beauty of its diversity. Cape Verde or Cabo Verde is one of these unique African countries that is referred to as being part of West Africa, and yet it is domiciled in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
But it's still in West Africa.
And this coffee is from there?
No, this one is, this one is from Papua New Guinea.
Oh, okay. Even further,
yes.
In another ocean.
In another ocean altogether.
Yes.
In new surroundings, the hen will walk on one leg.
I think that's very true.
It is?
Yes.
What does it mean to you?
I think when there's a lot of challenge in the neighborhood, I mean, there's new innovation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. You know, one of the things I really love about asking people's opinion about a proverb, you get to hear interpretations you could not have thought of. And yet,
because for the hen to walk with one leg,
yes.
I mean, that's very innovative.
Yeah.
And it must be because of the challenges in that food.
Yes. Yes, the hen has to be innovative because the challenges that it's facing require that it walks on one leg.
Yes.
Very true indeed.
Okay, so is Kenya standing on one leg at this point? Because this is definitely new territory, Ahmed Nasir, and we are talking about a situation, first of all, unprecedented, really never been in this particular situation with all the elements, has never happened in Kenya before. And we're looking specifically at what has happened with the cabinet. I'd like to get your initial thoughts when we saw the dissolution of cabinet, essentially, and all 20 of those 22 members sent home. Before we even get into reconstituting it, what are your thoughts about what happened with the dissolution at that point?
I think it was long overdue. That was the view of every Kenyan at that point, is that the cabinet let down both the people of Kenya and the president of Kenya. And it was no longer viable. It was no longer useful. All the problems that, that engulfed the country can be attributed to either the performance of the cabinet, its composition, the delivery, what they delivered, what they did not deliver. 2 years of wasted time, in my view. Yes. And that is what I think forced the president's hand to go that unprecedented way of dismissing his entire cabinet.
Ahmed Nasir, you say 2 years of wasted time. Are you saying 2 years of wasted time because individuals did not do what was supposed to be done? Or why would you say wasted time?
What have they done to... what did this government achieve during the last 2 years through this cabinet? I've said many times that if you look at the last 2 years, you will see the president overworking himself, doing the work other people should do. You will see the president, running all over the place. But in terms of the visibility of the cabinet, in terms of, the achievements of the cabinet, in terms of, if we do an analysis of these 22 or 23 cabinet members and tell them, what have you achieved in the last 2 years? I think their scorecard will be very, very, very scanty. Yes.
Do you think he realized this as the president and that there was something missing? We did hear that somewhere during the administration, he did call the entire cabinet and performance contracts were given. And then there were certain deliverables that they had to have achieved at the end of 5 years. We saw that happen. We also saw a very public calling out of ministries where he said, look, how can I be the one doing your work for you? You don't know what's going on. So at this point, was it a culmination of those plus what the protests were asking for? Or was it just because of pressure? And he said, okay, pressure, I feel it, everybody go home.
I mean, to be fair, to the president and even to the members of the cabinet, from day one, when he constituted that cabinet, everybody who is reasonable, of reasonable intelligence, who is aware of what's happening in this country, day one when the president appointed that cabinet, he knew and he was told that these characters will not deliver. I mean, it was obvious. It was obvious to me. It was obvious to everybody that that cabinet, when you saw them, I mean, there is no way they could have delivered. There is no way. I mean, that is a cabinet. I tell guys, that is a cabinet that was constituted on their performance at political rallies. You know, the president sees someone, you know, really firing up the crowd, throwing all kind of things. Then that image is ingrained in his mind, and translating that image of how you address crowds into a technocrat is where the failure came from. Yes.
So there was a pay. Sorry, CT.
No, please go ahead.
So there was a payment for loyalty, is what you're saying?
Of course. I mean, this was you see, William's government is a study in paradox. I mean, William ran one of the best campaigns ever. Yeah, you know, he ran a first-class campaign. He bamboozled, you know, the sitting president. He crushed him. He crushed someone of Raila's stature. Why did he do that? Because he connected with the people. He jumped off the political class and related to the people. There are many people, about 1.52 million people who voted for him, who did not vote for him because of tribal loyalty. But they thought this is the guy who wants to change the status quo. He's bringing a revolution. When he took power, he forgot that agenda and went back to the politicians. That's the way the problem is.
So then one could argue, therefore, that the campaigns were just a tool. Because if indeed the campaigns were to represent a certain reality, then that would have been reflected in the choice of members of cabinet whom he appointed.
Yes, that I agree with you. Either it was a tool, either the president didn't believe in his campaign agenda, or believed it but reverted back to where he was more comfortable is. But that is William's problem as we speak today. Yes, the disconnect between the utopia he created during his campaign and the reality that he wanted to rule on the country. That is the disconnect. That's why so many people are disappointed with him.
Do you really think that, in all honesty, listening to the campaigns and listening to some of the promises that were made, that the president had genuinely intended to bring about change?
I think he had, because I sat with him many times during his campaign, and there were a lot of amazing ideas that he had on how to bring change in this country. But I can tell you that all those amazing ideas have been discarded. So that is where the problem is.
Let me ask sorry. Ndu?
We're going to be apologizing to each other.
I'm going to be apologizing the whole day. Please, Ndu, please go ahead.
So look, Wakili, if he knew, you're saying from day one, when he was appointing this cabinet, that he was aware, he knew himself that he was appointing folks that were, subservient out of loyalty.
Not subservient, not
were
for the
loyal,
job, you know.
who were loyal to him,
yes.
during the campaign period. And then as the administration went along, it was clear that, certain things were not happening in the way in which they ought to be administratively. Why wouldn't he have done something earlier? We saw the rumblings. We saw there was one reshuffle, right? Why wouldn't he have said, okay, this is not working, kill the thing and let's move? It just seems that it is now coinciding with the protests, and that's when he decided, okay, well, here's my golden opportunity, shut this thing down. Why wouldn't he have done that earlier?
I agree with you. He should have done much earlier. I mean, when you run either a business or an organization and you find the problem on day one or on day two, you don't have to wait when you're down the road or 2 years down the road to see whether it will sort out itself. Someone who cannot do the job on day one will not be able to do it 2 years down the road. Yes. So it is, the buck really stops with the president on all these issues. And that's why I think he has now a second chance. In my view, the reconstitution of his cabinet and all this, political alliance that's coming up is like the week after he was declared winner of the presidency. It's a new beginning for him. Yes.
Is it really new? Let me explain why I asked the question. Somebody who's been in politics for as long as our president has been, he has been alive and in politics long enough to have seen the ups and downs of politics. He has been in a position where he can observe because he was a minister, he's been an assistant minister, he's been just a simple MP, he has been a deputy president. Now, one would argue, theoretically of course, that this ought to have given him a front row seat in understanding what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. However, that's the theory. You, by virtue of who you are, come across many politicians, or many politicians come across you. Where do you think the nexus is? Where do you think the problem is? Because I have this problem. I listen to someone and I can see this person means what they're saying. What happens when they get the job?
Of course, reality hits them, when you are campaigning on, of course, hope that you may win, and you are campaigning on a certain political dynamics that you face. So you'll say, I will do this, I will change this, we will go this way. Then when you come to power, you have two options. To keep your word and say that we are going, it may be difficult, but the changes I promised, we will do it. The programs I promised, we will do it. Or you have the other option of saying that, now it's... The reality is the reality.
We were campaigning. You should understand that.
Yes, this is what we will do. Yes. And I think William, when you look at, the campaign he had, the promises he made, said that, probably made up his mind and said that what I promised, especially on reform, this guy, leave alone these things of, the housing something, the health is something, making roads. Those are mundane issues in my view. This country's fundamental problem is governance issue. This country has a corruption problem. Everybody in government, you see, the arrest always clerks. I was seeing a clerk today who was arrested somewhere, 280 million shillings. Now suppose just you go up the ladder, you go up the ladder. If the clerk is the lowest guy has stolen about 280 million, what is the top guy stealing?
My goodness.
So this country's problem is governance problem. Governance, rule of law.
Yes.
Is there a consequence if I steal today? There is no consequence. Yes. So a country that does not punish the powerful and rich people in government when they break the law cannot survive. That's why we are facing these challenges. The symptoms, these demonstrations.
Yeah, symptoms of a problem.
Yes, they're symptoms of a bigger problem. It's a governance problem. This country, you need to address corruption by those guys in power.
So we're slowly going towards the reconstitution of the cabinet, and in this discussion we're building towards that, but then looking at these building blocks I think is extremely important. And I think somebody said to us yesterday that the folks who are loyal to you during a campaign, you have no business putting them in government. Take them and give them ambassadorial positions, send them out of the country,
or even give them money.
Yeah,
let them
far
start
away,
some business.
exactly, far away from you, because they're not going to help you when it comes to administration of a government. You have said that the buck stops with the president. So what fault also lays at his feet for appointing these folks who he's very well aware would not have been competent when it comes to governing, as you speak of?
No, all the blame, the president takes all the blame in my view. And I told you that in my view, when he was appointing his cabinet, he was appointing them on the performance of X at a rally. You go to Costa, you see this lady, charging up the crowd, building up one very interesting proposal after the other. That is ingrained in the president's mind. You go to Western Kenya, then you see another politician really. I mean, in my view, I may be wrong, but I think I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the president appointed his cabinet on the performance of individuals during the campaign and how they performed, their rallies, and how they organized things. And that is a wrong way because, energizing a political rally in a rural constituency is very different from being, for example, a minister for health. Yes. I must know something about health.
At the very least.
At the very least. And if I am a very good mobilizer of rallies, the president can find a lot of jobs for these people. But, cabinet is the engine of the country. This is what moves this country. For example, this finance bill is a cabinet. It came to the cabinet. Mm-hmm. They discussed all those. Mm-hmm. And all those 23 members agreed that this is the right thing. And I don't think there was any dissent. That's the problem I think the president and the country faces.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's look at some legal stuff. That we saw this. He made the announcement to Kenya that there was a dissolution of cabinet and that now those positions were declared vacant. But then we also saw that there was a gazettement of the same thing. Why was that necessary for that to happen?
I think for the record, all government things had to be gazetted. But I think the difference between the statement and the gazette notice is that the gazette notice now gave the reasons why the president dismissed them. Mm-hmm. If you look at the preamble where it says, whereas this, taking cognizance of what the people of Kenya have told me, addressing issue of transparency, all those issues, the president now gave proper reasons why he dismissed this cabinet ministers. Mm-hmm. Yes. One of the issues he said is the issue of transparency and governance. Yes. The other issue is that he said is that many Kenyans have talked to him about their performance. Another reason was that he said, I have appraised all the cabinet ministers' performance. So the Gazette notice now gave very cogent, very powerful, very sound reasons why they were dismissed.
Is it possible that each and every one of the 22 who were dismissed had these issues? Everybody essentially was not working, was not competent, was not transparent, was not accountable?
I think there's an element of generalization, but I think to be on the safe side, we can say majority. Yes, majority. If the president felt that you performed, he left you. Mudavadi was left out.
He left one guy, though.
Mudavadi was left out, yes. Yeah. Yes.
It's very strange because when you're discussing governance and politics, and the reference point is this country, it looks like you are discussing two very contrasting opposites. Because our politics seems to be a complete anathema to just the very concept of governance. How do you marry the two?
No, to be fair, first, this country, if you look at our politics, we are very unique in the region. We are fairly advanced. Yes. Don't rush. Don't rush.
This one you're going to have to explain.
Yes, Kenya in our democratic setup,
yes,
and even in our constitutional setup,
yes,
is a much more sophisticated system than the neighborhood. There's no country in the neighborhood you can compare us to. Whether it's Uganda, whether it's Tanzania, they have a different set of stability, but it's very superficial stability. Our politics is more fluid because at our level of development, informed by both our economy and our constitutional setup and structures, Kenya is more susceptible to this kind of periodic instability because it is a democracy. Yes, we are democracy. We are constitutional democracy. Yes. That's not something you can say of many countries in the region. Yes. But that constitutional democracy is still in its formative, germinative stage. We are developing. We are developing at a unique rate. We are going in the right direction, in my view. But there are certain problems we refuse to address that set of economic and political and constitutional setup requires. And that is the governance issue. If we address our governance issue and we have a system that it makes every one of us accountable, then now we will go to the next stage of a proper democracy.
How would you marry this, what you've just said, with what the current political accountability governance issues being raised by the protests together right now? How would you join the two?
Yes, I mean, the people who are aggrieved by the system have very genuine grievance because Kenya isn't working for them. I mean, the government, successive governments have refused to address corruption and governance issues. I mean, Uhuru refused completely. His 10 years, I mean, how many people were arrested and convicted for corruption? Maybe 2 or 1? If you look at independence since 1963, and you make a list of the political elites who were charged with corruption and convicted, they will not reach even 10. Yes. And all these rich billionaires, I mean, the money comes from government, you know. If you are not an Asian, for example, or a European or certain other, if you are a black Kenyan and you are a billionaire, 90% of billionaires are made by former government officials. That's how we make our money. Yes, yes. That's why you have seen all these cabinet ministers trying to go back. They don't have a program that was nusu or half that they want to finish. No. They want to make more money. Yes. The salary of a cabinet minister is 1.5 million maximum. Why do you want to go back? Why are they making all this noise? Why are they organizing demonstrations? Why are they organizing TV? It is because the only way we know on how to make money as an African Kenyan is to steal from government.
Ahmed Nasir, in all honesty, is that the only way we know of how to make money? You're a businessman. You're a lawyer, yes, but you're a businessman.
Minority. Those are you know, lawyers, doctors, professionals. I'm not talking about those, and we don't make billions. You know, I'm telling you, from 1963 to now, if you look at the rich, wealthy Kenyans,
they're former government officials.
They're former government officials.
Yes,
yes. The others, we make money, of course. Lawyers make money. Doctors make money. Engineers make money. And that is why people are running into the public service. Not to serve, make a difference,
not to serve,
but to enrich themselves. And that is, you know, the governance issue we have refused to address because those guys in power, I mean, that's the modus operandi. Why do you want to kill that system that works so well for them?
And now, is it working so well for them even now?
For them, this is a passing cloud.
As far as they're concerned, this is a passing cloud.
For them, this is a passing cloud.
When things quieten down, it'll be back to business as usual.
Yes.
Do you really think that is the case?
No, it's not. Because in my view, I mean, when you look at, you know, these demonstrations, for me, I divide into two. The first one that was started by, you know, this young generation it was a thematic grievances. They were saying that, you know, this finance bill has problems. It is taxing, it is destroying the economy, it is not in the interest of Kenyans. And they had very peaceful demonstrations, you know. And I think majority of Kenyans were with them. The government, you know, considered it and withdrew that bill. After that, you know, a lot of other actors came into, you know.
As they were bound to.
As they were bound to. I mean, Kitengela became the epicenter of the new demonstration, the headquarters. So there are all those issues. But I think the seismic change these demonstrations brought about is that people like the president and even the political elites have realized that if we don't address some of these issues, the next demonstration will be much bigger.
It'll be at our doorstep.
And much closer.
Yes, much closer and more problematic to address. Yes.
Let's take a break on that point, and we're going to come back after the break and then talk about, okay, fine, reconstituting the engine, essentially, that's going to run government in a way in which it has not been done before, and we'll get insights into that. It is 28 minutes to 10 o'clock. We'll continue with this right after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to...
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
CT Lodge.
Muga, not Muga.
He is here, and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman, another man marries troubles.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It would die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the same
Bukati,
IEBC.
You can't.
I tell you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Because kina Ednah, it's the, like you said, the B's and the P's. Kila kitu mkisia akisema atasema opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema hii anasema opposite. Opposite. Ukisikiliza unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room, Spice. The only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
Partly sunny conditions, mostly overcast though, is what we'll see in Nairobi, highs of 20 and lows of 12, and we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14 in Nakuru, highs of 19 and lows of 14 in Nyeri, with highs of 23 and lows of 14 in Eldoret. Mombasa is sunny at 24 with 27 and sunny conditions in Malindi, 24 and a haze over Kisumu. We're looking at the same thing at 22 in Kakamega. It's 23 and sunny in Kampala, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24. We are seeing partly sunny conditions and partly cloudy conditions through. It's sunny at 15 in Johannesburg, and at 28 Mogadishu is sunny, 17 and cloudy in Addis, while Lagos is cloudy at 25 with Kinshasa sunny at 21. 36 degrees, highs of 37 going into the end of Friday in Beijing. It's 19 and cloudy in Paris and 20 and sunny in London. It's clear still Thursday night in New York at 23. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 29. Okay, so still a little bit busy here and there in the city this morning. Landis Road is what is jam-packed going towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. And just a little bit of it left as you go through towards the Pangani Tunnel on the Thika Superhighway. Apart from that, I think you'll traverse the city without too much of a problem this morning. We will keep an eye on things, and hopefully you can help us out through the morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
25 minutes to 10 o'clock, and our conversation continues this morning with Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, and we are looking at reconstituting cabinet. And we've seen what has happened progressively over the last 2 years. It was clear what needed to happen. It happened. And now, in the face of all of this, Ahmed Nasir, there must be an engine that runs government that must be selected. We are being told that the president has retreated to now select his new cabinet. What needs to happen for that?
I think, as I said, the president now has a golden opportunity. This is like starting afresh. He has no cabinet. He's reconstituting his entire cabinet. Finding 25 or 23 or 22 competent Kenyans, male, female, that represent what we call the face of the country, it's not a difficult task.
No.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it in a day, you can do it in a week, but it is very important to say that, my cabinet has failed me during the last 2 years. They achieved so little. There was so much disappointment expressed by ordinary Kenyans to me. I have dismissed them. I'm starting on a clean slate. Who shall we start with? I mean, if he has good advisors, and I think the president now has some good advisors, he can easily say that, this is the list, and within a week he will have an amazing list of, guys competent in their area. If you want to appoint me, for example, you should not appoint me minister for. I probably will perform well. Maybe
yes. A thing or two about legal
but water,
affairs.
I want to hear the minister.
Yes, water. Health. Something. There are Kenyans who are experts in water.
Yes.
Yes. They have done range management. They have done a lot. Probably they are experts. So you can say that Of course, there are guys you can shanda but there are I mean, if you want to get health, for example, if you want to fix health,
My goodness.
not necessarily a doctor, but someone who knows something about the medical profession, the challenge facing the country.
Public
if you
health,
want to fix agriculture, there are many Kenyans who know a lot about agriculture. There are guys who have been studying all their lives what are the problems of this sector. Either you can make them, I think, the PS so that they can provide the expertise and the minister can provide policy. But for God's sake, I mean, I think the president has a second chance. He should not saddle us with this, incompetent riffraffs that he collected from rallies. Yes.
When it comes to the selection of or appointment of high-ranking government officials in a political setup, I think it goes along the lines of a logic that is just peculiar to that particular aspect of our lives, politics. But the person who selects cannot escape blame, because you select that cabinet to serve a purpose. See, like now, for instance, what brought everything we're talking about to the head that we're now at was the finance bill. But that was a culmination of things that had been said over and over again. And yet, this same president has advisors in all these fields.
No, but to be fair, I mean, right from the, I agree with you. The finance bill was the culmination. It brought to the fore. But it was fermenting. It was boiling up.
Yes.
I mean, all these grievances, all these incompetences in government, all this corruption. I mean, it was boiling for the last 2 years. Kenyans were talking about it.
This has been boiling for the last over 10 years ago, because the Uhuru government went overboard in many, many issues. But that's a different story.
Yes.
Why I'm saying this is, if I look at that plethora of advisors and all those people, am I to believe that all these people could not see what was happening in the country and advise, and that they did not advise? Or if they advised, that the advice was not taken to heart and that nothing could be done? This matter of the finance bill and the burden it, there are people who, I'm told, I record, experts in economics. How do you allow the IMF to dictate to you austerity measures which have never worked? When applied, have never worked. That theory has been debunked many, many times. In a recession, you pump in money, not reduce the flow of it. And this is what they're going with.
IMF does not come to your door.
Hey, you go to them.
They even don't like when you come. Yes. It's when you, I don't want to use the right word, but it's when you destroy your economy. It's when you steal everything. It's when your coffers are empty, like Uhuru did when he left. It's when it is empty. It's when you are desperate. You can't even buy bread for your people, that you go begging. And then they tell you, okay, you are coming to beg today? Yes. What do you want? I want bread and sugar. Okay, go and do this.
On this condition.
But I can tell you, there are many conditionalities on governance, corruption that they have put on the table that the government has not implemented. Yes. And I think the next time when they go begging, some of the issues will even be more
stringent.
Yes. I mean that's the way it works. Don't blame. Listen to me. Don't blame IMF. Blame yourself. It's when you destroy your country, like Ghana did, and many other African countries. It's when you steal everything. That IMF comes and says, "Oh, this country. What do we do with this native?" Then that's the time they write the prescription for you. So please, let's not be this, nationalistic third world.
I am not blaming the IMF. I am merely stating that the prescriptions that they often give us don't actually work. They are more theoretical, and it's like somebody sitting somewhere trying to experiment to see how this thing is going to work. And we ask for it. I understand all that.
Yes.
My issue was, there are all these experts who are supposed to guide, who are supposed to say, excuse me, this path is going to get us here.
Yes, that's true. I mean, for example, this taxation, we are overtaxed. I mean, as a lawyer, I can tell you that, we pay this, we pay this, what is it called, housing funds, we pay this. Even as lawyers, we feel it. But I have no problem paying tax if it's not stolen.
Absolutely.
Yes. You see, I mean, Kenyans we can even pay this issue.
Yes.
They were raising the finance. Kenyans are willing to tighten their belts.
Yes.
But why should I pay when it's stolen by a cabinet minister who was brought the other day? who had nothing and now is building everywhere or acquiring all kind of... Why should I pay tax? Or the PS, the technocrats are all stealing. Why?
Fundamental question.
That is the governance problem.
Okay, so now as we look at this governance issue, one of the things that may be a reality to people is conjecture, and then people are met with fear that it's possible. And from a legal point of view, explain, is it possible that some of the folks who have been vacated of their positions could actually make a comeback in this new cabinet?
No, I don't think they will. First, legally they cannot make a... I think we have made that point.
Okay.
The president has given very, very well reasoned why he dismissed them. There's governance issues, he said. There's transparency issues. There's accountability. Those are his words, not mine. So if he fires because of transparency and accountability, he can't
bring them back.
He can't bring them back. But the question we ask is, why do they want to come back?
Is it not the thing you who said just now?
Yes, but why do they... let's take one example. For example, assume Lenturu wants to come back. Okay. Why does he want to come back? Why? I'm not saying he wants to come back. Probably he doesn't want to come back.
let me ask this.
Why would you want to?
If indeed...
Isn't there life after cabinet?
There should be.
There should be.
Yes.
If what we see... what has been ignited takes root and the accountability factor becomes our reality in this country.
Yes.
Would you think that these people would still want their jobs? If they knew you are going to be held to account and that there'll be consequences for your action?
Yeah, not necessarily this, but you see, there's a complete change in paradigm now. In that there's, for the first time, these demonstrations by the young generation has brought an element of accountability.
Yes.
And they have forced the government, to eat a humble pie. They have completely forced it. And I think that's the way to go. They were spoiled by these other guys who brought a lot of violence and without an agenda.
Yeah.
But, if we stick to that, and then the next agenda is to go to the judiciary and tell them, we hear there's a lot of corruption here. We want accountability.
They're going to go there.
We want a life audit. Then we come back to the cabinet and say, you guys want to come back? Can we know, for example, how many cabinet ministers, when they were appointed, moved from South Sea to Karen, for example?
Let's start there.
Or, we know all these things. Listen to me carefully. The government knows who steals what, almost on a daily basis.
They know.
But they don't want to take an action.
Why?
Because it will create this kind of chaos,
Well, the chaos is here with us, isn't
it? Now, we want that chaos actually to be normalized, to be made, to be structured. For example, so that we can audit every Kenyan who works on how he makes his money. And if he can't explain, to return that money to us. Yes. So that we don't pay taxes the way we are paying. Our taxes can go down if we have a proper governance structure. Tax will come down. Yes.
Is it enough to reconstitute a cabinet and then not look at some of these underlying issues? You said something, and I think that's the very bane of what's happening in Kenya. Corruption is an issue. Transparency is an issue. Non-accountability is an issue. You have a public debt audit which is still waiting. Heaven knows when that will ever be done. But is it enough to reconstitute a cabinet and hope and pray to God, cross your fingers and knock on wood that they will do what they're supposed to do? Or must all of these underlying issues also be covered as well?
First, I think the president has made it very clear that, the dismissal of his cabinet and reconstitution is just one part of it.
Okay.
And he said it very clear. He says, I want to address corruption. I want to address governance. And, when Kenya has a lot of problems. Of course, I've spoken about the judiciary a lot.
Yes.
And I think my views are well known. I can only report that things are going worse.
Oh, wow.
Since we met here last time. Mambo Maripika. But even look at Parliament. Parliament is not a functioning institution.
At the moment.
Okay, the speaker is there. The leader of majority gives a speech. The leader of minority is given an opportunity to say something. Members are not allowed to debate anything. Yes. Remember, I've seen many friends of mine, they said we are not allowed to talk. If we bring a motion, there will be chaos that X has brought a bill, you will be forced. So we must revisit how Parliament works. Because we have seen the challenge with the executive. We have no judiciary to speak of. It depends on how much you pay the judge. We have a parliament. So how does your democracy works? I mean,
Ahmed Nasser, your angst against the judiciary is well documented. But are we saying that everybody in the judiciary is on the take? Surely.
My views are known. I've told you that since I was here last, mambo imeharibika.
The judiciary has expanded. I mean, one looks at judgments, one looks at declarations by the court every day, and some of them fairly favorable to the public, I would argue.
That's actually, I've said many times about this. There's something called public law and private law. The Kenyan courts, if you are a foreigner, you will be amazed at how progressive and sound their public law judgments are.
Right.
The police cannot do this, the president cannot do this, parliament cannot do this, the executive cannot do this. That one, they have done fantastic job, and I give them a lot of credit.
But
pale wanakula ni private law. I have a dispute with you, we are fighting over a house, we unaenda unachotea. That private law, that's where the problem is. Public law, they do. I mean, Kenya is very famous. Our judiciary is very famous, and the judgments on private law, amazing judgments, because it's against the state. The state will not bribe them, you know.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Okay, so you've talked about Parliament. Still seems to be in a chokehold, right? Now, there's where we can talk. Members of Parliament have told us very clearly, even in this room, about the fact that, you know what, members of Parliament, depending on which political party you are in, you're subservient to the executive. Now, their subservience reigns supreme.
That's true.
The executive, the president, is about to appoint a new cabinet. This cabinet must go back, these proposed names must go back to Parliament for vetting. That has to happen. Are we going to see another rubber stamp?
No, I think we'll not see I think we will see probably a more robust, in interrogation. I think there's a time, didn't last Parliament reject some
some fellow who was supposed to go be the ambassador in Congo?
Not Congo, even the cabinet. I think they recommended something. I think
tokenism.
They made some points actually.
Yes, they did.
That XYZ is not qualified for the job.
That's tokenism.
But I think if we Parliament should do its job. They do. First, the president should do his job. A cabinet of competent men and women that represent the face of Kenya. Right from this region to that region, who know their work in relation to the ministry they've been appointed. Then Parliament does its vetting, proper vetting, not either witch hunt or whitewash, but something that interrogates everybody. Then after that, let people do their job. But after that, we need to do, a lot of how does the system. Let me give you one example. This constitution brought something called constitutional commissions. There are so many.
Yeah, very many.
There are the JEC, there's the parliamentary commission, there are these. During the first 2 years of Kibaki, those commissions worked amazingly well because they were advertised. People advertised, they are interviewed, they are the best, they are picked, and the commissions were working. When Uhuru came to power in 2013, they came with a roadmap to capture these constitutional commissions. When they advertise, you already know that X, Y, Z, Z will be given the jobs. They appoint people, I don't want to say I don't want to name the kind of people who interview, but if you look at the people who interview the DPP, you will get an idea. People who have no idea, who have never gone to school, will interview the person. Then they were given a list by the executive. They say, we want X, Y, Z. So the Constitution Commission now is staffed with people who answer to State House. So all constitutional commissions have died. There's none that's now functioning because all of them were appointed by State House. The same thing happened in Ruto's government in the last 2 years. Every time they want to appoint someone, 6 months before we will know that Ahmed is taking the job. And Ahmed will be told, we are giving you that job. Interview, we'll take care of it. So, my friends, that's what's killing Kenya. Destroying institutions. Allowing people who are loyal to you to take over very, very important organs of government.
Ahmed Nasser, all over the world, when a president wins an election, you witness cronism. People appoint the people they can trust and the people they know.
No, that is okay. Those are positions in the executive. That one is allowed anywhere in the world. In America, they say about 8,000 to 10,000 jobs change hand when the parties change offices. And that's like, ambassadors.
Yes.
A lot of other jobs. But, those guys are still competent. I mean, they are being appointed because they are members of that party.
Yes.
They are loyalists of that party.
But their competence is not in doubt.
The competence is not in doubt. Their integrity will be questioned. I mean, they will be subject to a lot of, those vetting. But what I have a problem is, for example, there's a constitutional commission, very important constitutional commission. You advertise for the jobs, then you put some monkeys to interview the candidate, and then you give them a list and say that this is the list. I mean, you are destroying institutions.
Right.
Surely the individuals who are appointed to vet and to interview these people cannot be likened to primates. I mean, Nasir. I mean,
it's a metaphor.
It is a metaphor.
Yes.
Okay, it is a metaphor. So the insult is actually to the primate, not to the individuals.
Wow,
is it?
you're doing better.
Okay. Let me ask this question. Let me make a statement instead. I actually am not worried about the vetting. I'm not bothered. And the reason why I'm not bothered, technology has come of age in this country, whether we like it or not. If Parliament goes about the business as usual mentality, they'll be in for a surprise. You know why? Anybody who is appointed to be vetted by Parliament, believe me, these valiant Kenyans we are referring to as Gen Zs will vet that person.
No, I disagree with you completely.
Why do you disagree
why?
with me?
If you Google about me, you will get a lot of information. Some majority right, majority not wrong, but you will get all kind of information because I've been in the limelight for all this. I've been this. I've done cases. I've taught at the university. I have a track record. When you Google this man from Nakuru, the president appointed a minister, what's his name? Kinuthia or something?
No, his name is not Kinuthia.
What?
You're talking about the former minister for lands.
Yes. Who's in water? Njeru, yes. If you Google him, the result will be zero.
Nasir, that's where you go wrong.
Listen,
this group don't Google. You see, there are search engines that are not Google which will tell you a lot more
like
than
what?
Google can.
Like which one?
Okay?
Which one?
I am not ICT savvy.
No, the best engine is Google that will give you everything about a person.
Google will give you.
And the point I'm making is that there are some guys, their CV is so short and so thin that there is nothing you will get from Google.
I'm trying to tell you that if what I have seen and the information I have seen these people putting out in the public domain, Google will not give you. Okay. They know a lot more than what Google has given you.
But are you trying to say, Ahmed, that if somebody's track record was being looked for, you should be able to know that? And why appoint someone who you don't know anything about?
Yes, that's the point I'm saying. That, you must... Even when you are rewarding your political camp or people who are in your same camp, you have such a rich data bank. There are guys. If I want, for example, to look for a Luo minister, there are millions of Luos who are very competent. I can get the best in terms of expertise of that area, in terms of his integrity, in terms of his standing. That I will say that, this man from Siaya is the right man for the job. And Kenyans, when they look at you, they will agree with you. But now if you want to look for the most useless man from Homa Bay, you will still get him. But there's a political price you will pay.
Why are the bright people coming from Siaya and the dumb ones from Homa Bay?
Okay, well, maybe that should be our last question really quickly then. While you guys can duke it out. Yesterday we had a diversity and inclusivity question. When it comes to the cabinet, does it matter, diversity and inclusivity, or are we talking about competence now and meritocracy?
No, it matters because you can marry all those things together. Diversity, inclusivity, competence. They are not mutually exclusive. They're all, if I make a decision, if the president, for example, makes a decision that he wants a Turkana man, which will bring inclusivity and diversity, you will get a very competent, qualified man from that community. So they are not mutually exclusive, they are inclusive. But I think we can conclude on saying that President Ruto has an excellent chance. I mean, his government was almost run out of town by these young people who demonstrated. And they had genuine grievances because they want a better Kenya. A Kenya that listens to them, that delivers to them, that does not steal from them. And I think the task of the president in reconstituting his cabinet is to address that and give them competent, qualified Kenyans who are not thieves.
Should he do this quickly? How much time do we have?
I think there's no hurry. I mean, I think he can take a week. In my view, he can take another week. I'm told he wants to form a broad-based government, which is a good thing for this country. The end result is better. The end result is what determines. The process is not that important for me.
All right. What do you see? Do a crystal ball moment for us in a minute. That in the next couple of weeks, what would we see? Protests backing down?
No, I think the president will not miss. I think this is a second opportunity. I mean, then if he doesn't get it right, then we will realize that the fundamental problem this country faces is the president himself. If he doesn't get it right, because he must get it right. I mean, I know there are many people telling him the right things. There are many people telling him to do the right things. But of course, there are these, guys who are loping all over the place, status quo, who wants to continue. But the president, and many people have told him, actually he should be very selfish. Yes. He should be concerned with himself, his government, rather than seeing whether someone should come back to cabinet. I mean, the interest of him as a politician, the interest of the people of Kenya. What Kenyans want. It's not very difficult to know what Kenyans want.
No, it is not.
Yes. We all know what we want. So why is the president not delivering for Kenyans what they want?
Good fundamental questions, and also thank you for being part of this conversation. Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And it will be interesting to see what happens in the coming days. The conversations must continue. Thanks for making Kenya's biggest conversation part of your morning this whole week. Have a good weekend. We'll meet again at 6 a.m. on Monday, God willing. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life